Rescinded. One good thing
You'll rescind that one too?
One good thing
You'll rescind the Dream Act executive order, the DACA.
We have to make a whole new set of standards. And when people come in, they have to come in.
So you're going to split up families.
Chuck,
you're going to deport children.
Chuck, no. We're going to keep the families together. We have to keep the families together.
But you're going to keep
them
together out.
But they have to go.
What if they have no place to go?
We will work with them. They have to go. Chuck, we either have a country or we don't have a country. Either we have a country or not.
How do you do it?
The cost of doing it. Look at the cost of what we have right now.
The cost of doing it.
Let me ask you this: do you think?
I understand that, but how do you do it?
Do you think there's tremendous cost for the illegals that are in here right now?
Of course, there's cost to it.
Okay, tremendous. Do you think there's tremendous crime being committed by illegals?
There's definitely evidence that it's happened. There's
tremendous, far greater than what they do. And you see it all over. Just last night, all over. We will do it, and we will expedite it so people can come back in.
It's still not clear.
Chuck, it'll work out so well. You will be so happy. In 4 years, you're going to be interviewing me, and you're going to say, what a great job you've done, President Trump.
What a great job you've done, President Trump.
Chuck Todd is such a tool.
Well, and here's the thing. The people who so Trump supporters are divided up into two different camps, if you will. And they've been described by some of the people that are I would call them political operatives. They say that there's the trust Trump crowd and there's the Trump skeptic crowd. Now, before I get into what our thoughts are on this, I just want to let you know that I have friends on both sides of the aisle. I plan on staying friends with them, and I'm not going to lie to you or to them in order to do that. And I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus when they shouldn't be. I'm not going to accuse them of something that's not true. I'm not going to name call. None of that. I'm going to stay 100% truthful and accurate at all times, and I'm going to be fair with both sides, including even if my own side starts to go down a road that I think should be, red flags should come up. I'm going to say that too. So I want to get that right out into the open. The emotions, and this is why liberals are impossible to deal with, because they are 100% emotional at all times. But that doesn't mean that we are immune from having an emotional reaction. I mean, we all do it. So I try my hardest to exercise discipline and just keep my emotions out of it as best I can. And sometimes it's almost impossible. And sometimes I'm able to do it well. And sometimes I'm combating the emotions of the other side. So this is what happened on September 5th. Trump ended DACA. Now, it didn't end like totally, all right, it's over and that's it. He ended it where it would actually take effect, where there would be no deferral whatsoever in 6 months from him ending it. So, and here's a real little quick NPR blurb about that on the 5th. Trump administration Tuesday formally announced that it will end the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. That's DACA. DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals Program, also called DACA, put an expiration date on the legal protections granted to roughly 800,000 people known as Dreamers, which I'm going to tell you right now is actually a misnomer because the DREAM Act is something a little bit different, and I'll talk about that in a minute.
And also DAPA, D-A-P-A.
Right, which nobody even knows about because I think it's no longer in effect thanks to the Supreme Court.
Right.
President Trump issued a statement saying, quote, "I do not favor punishing children, most of whom are now adults, for the actions of their parents. But we must also recognize that we are a nation of opportunity because we are a nation of laws." Do you agree with that, Brian?
Oh,
right?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
He also said he looks forward to working with Republicans and Democrats in Congress to address immigration issues, quote, "in a manner that puts the hardworking citizens of our country first." So there's your America First thing. That's the theme of the Trump presidency, MAGA, Make America Great Again. And we do that by focusing on America First, including Americans. That would be legal U.S. citizens or people that are here legally, otherwise legally. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders said Trump wrestled with the decision to end DACA over the weekend. In an afternoon briefing, she denied the decision was cold-hearted, painting it as the alternative to an immediate shutdown of the program by a federal court. She said the president wants DACA made permanent as a part of a comprehensive immigration legislation that would end illegal immigration, prevent visa overstays, and create a merit-based system of immigration. So that's the gist of what happened on the 5th. Now, the initial reaction to the Trump skeptics I saw, and I'm not painting them all with a broad brush, but I definitely seen a little bit of this initially. They were initially upset because it took this long to be rescinded. That they said, whoa, I heard him say on day one. Now, I will admit, I did a little research, and I didn't see where he said that particular thing will happen on day one, but that does not mean that that's not the case. He may have said that. I didn't feel like going through all the audio of every single one of his rallies where he may have actually said that.
You know, if he said on day one as often as he said build the wall, I mean,
all right,
maybe we'd remember that. And you've got to understand. You've got to be understanding. I'm telling you right now, folks. I know the listeners that we have right now. You guys are by far the smartest, most informed listeners that I know, especially the ones that tweet back at us, that direct message us, that are in direct contact with us outside the show. So share the show and send it to somebody that you know needs help.
Please share this. Please share this.
Because the thing is that Trump supporters or people who voted for Trump that are now on the complain bandwagon, that are complaining, they need to get a grip very quickly because Trump has done phenomenal things in 8 months. 8 months.
Let's walk through this because I want to listen to what they say, and I've asked them, please tell me where I'm going wrong. Tell me where your issues are. Tell me what your issues are with my opinion on it, because I want to try to understand why it is that you're having this reaction. And so I've talked to some people, but let's walk through. Let's make sure the number one most important thing when you're going to get into a debate with somebody or have a discussion about an issue is to make sure that we're all on the same page with all the definitions, because I do believe a lot of the drama or disagreement comes from the one side thinking that when we say DACA or we say Dreamers or we say illegal immigration or amnesty is another one, that one side is picturing the definition of these words and phrases and acronyms to be one thing, and the other side is taking these same exact phrases, words, and acronyms, and they think it's something completely different. And so we want to make sure that we're all on the same page with all these different definitions. So let's just start with the DREAM Act. Okay, the DREAM Act, DREAM is actually an acronym, and it stands for Development, Relief, Education for Alien Minors. That is DREAM. And the DREAM Act was an attempt by Congress to grant amnesty to people who they claim were here through no fault of their own, and they had no say in the decision to come, and they've been here for a long time, and for the most part, there's no difference between them and an American, a young American citizen, other than that one is technically legal and the other's not. And this act, obviously, amnesty for however many people, and there's certain requirements to have been considered a dreamer, but here's the thing. It failed in Congress. It did not pass Congress. It did not happen. So when you hear the DREAM Act, and when you hear about dreamers, and when you hear people being called dreamers, it's a misnomer. There are no dreamers because the DREAM Act didn't pass at all. And that I just learned that last month. Last month, I decided, everybody's talking about dreamers. Let's do a little And when research. You hear about dreamers... Whoa, what was that? I have no idea what that was.
We're good.
Okay. Whew, I just got screamed at by myself. So anyway, the bugs. It's like gremlins up in here. So I wanted to learn about the DREAM Act, but I heard so much about dreamers for the past couple of years that I assumed that there's actually such thing as dreamers. And it turns out that's not true at all. So that's annoying that we've been lied to. And I'm glad
but
to be able
like to dream, Carrie.
Right. So there is no Dream Act, and there are no dreamers. But when you hear them talk about dreamers, what they're actually referring to is what Obama enacted as an executive order after the Dream Act failed, and that's called DACA. So the people who qualified for DACA are called dreamers, even though it's a misnomer. And DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. Now, let me tell you what DREAM was again. DREAM was Development, Relief, and Education for Alien Minors. And DACA was Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. You can call them alien minors, whatever. So childhood arrivals and alien minors is basically the same thing in those acronyms. But the difference is the DREAM Act was going to do all these things, put all these illegal aliens into a program, taxpayer funded and all this kind of stuff. And of course that failed, and I'm actually glad. I don't think that we should be doing that. And so as a consolation prize, Obama decided, well, let's just defer action on the childhood arrivals, and we'll call it DACA. Now, what is the action that is referred to in DACA? Deferred action for childhood arrivals. Action refers to enforcement of immigration law, specifically deportation. So when you hear action, deferred action, what that means is we're deferring deportation. And what is law anyway? Law is something written by the legislature, and it's supposed to be enforced by the executive branch. So DACA is literally a statement saying we are no longer going to enforce that portion of the immigration law. So it's not really a law. I know there's some people out there that want to argue that not enforcing a law is de facto law, but I think you're muddying the waters if you want to make that argument. Anything you do to somebody has to be done through the legislative process.
Right.
Not doing something to somebody is not a law, right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I reject the argument that ignoring a law is de facto law. I just reject that right off the bat. Just like in physics, we learn that hot goes to cold. It's not the other way around. Cold doesn't go to hot. Hot goes to cold. It's just something you learn in physics. It's just something you learn in physics. There's anything other than that is muddying the water. So anyway, so here are the requirements to be eligible for DACA. This is really important. I'm going to walk through these requirements that are so important, because if you don't know what the requirements are for being eligible for DACA, then you don't really know what a DACA kid is or a DACA person is.
Right.
I don't want to call them kids because that's actually a misnomer too. So here are the requirements. They have to they came to the United States before their 16th birthday. Okay?
Right.
They've lived continuously in the United States since June 15th of 2007. All right? So it's 2017, folks. That means 10 years they will have had to have been in America at this point. Now, at the time that they enacted this, it would have been less. It would have been like 5 years, I think. They were under the age of 31 on June 2012. Do you know what that means? We had this big debate. Are the DACA people up to 31 years old, or are they up to 36 years old? Well, according to this, which I got this from Wikipedia, and I have no reason to assume that this is wrong.
I'm just going to guess. I honestly thought it was 31.
Yeah, and I actually had some people who I asked to please confirm that to be true or false. Is it 36 or 31? Well, I can tell you based on the Wikipedia list of requirements for DACA, when we know that Wikipedia isn't 100% right 100% of the time. But if I am to believe the list of requirements per Wikipedia for DACA, then they can be 36 years old.
Right, and if you come from a country, like we have folks on the message board, if you come from a country where they don't actually have legal documents or documents of your birth, You just happen to be born out in the field somewhere, and you just come over to America, and you're 27 years old. You say you're 17, and you go into a high school in the girls' bathroom and start raping them all.
Oh my gosh! So yeah,
that really did. You guys know
Right.
if you listen to us long enough, that really did happen.
All kinds of crazy stuff. So going on with the requirements, we're physically present in the United States at the time. United States on June 15, 2020, and at the time of making their request for consideration of deferred action with USCIS. Another one had no lawful status on June 15, 2012. That's kind of, I'm not really 100% with, so I guess you were illegal. You were illegal on that date. It's kind of weird. Or, you don't qualify for this if you were a green card holder. All right, so if you were a green card holder at the time of signing, then this would not apply to you. You have to have completed high school or GED, or had an honorable discharge from the armed forces, and are enrolled in school currently. All right, you have to have not been convicted of a felony or serious misdemeanors, or 3 or more other misdemeanors, and do not possess or pose a threat to national security or public safety. Now, let me repeat all these in layman's terms. So, in layman's terms, you have to not be a U.S. citizen or a green card holder at the time of the signing. You have to have come here as a child, and by child I mean under 16 years of age. You have to have been here at least 10 years as of now, been 5 years at the time. Are not currently older than 36. It's kind of an interesting little thing they threw in there. And you were in the U.S. at the time Obama signed it. You're educated and not a serious criminal or a known terrorist.
Well, something else I just tweeted out that, folks, the CNN honestly believes, when you brought up the military, CNN believes that all DACA individuals, or all of them, are either all in the military or all of them are working full time.
Well,
all 800,000
working full time isn't anywhere on this list.
No, but that's their whole point. They're trying to say that they are successful employees working society.
They're educated.
Military.
They're educated. They're not serious criminals. They wouldn't be considered a threat to America. So I'm assuming somebody who may have ties to terrorism would obviously not qualify. So, I mean, sure, they could be unemployed and all that kind of stuff. But you heard this. So who does DACA not include? So we know it's not, obviously, if you're a citizen or a green card holder, you're not a DACA person. You can't be a DACA person. If you came here as an adult or an older adolescent, which would be 16, 17, then you cannot be DACA. You are not DACA. You haven't been here at least 10 years as of now, or at least 5 years at the time of the signing. Or if you came here as a child, you've been here more than 10 years, but older than 36 years old. So if you could actually have everything on here apply to you, except if you're older than 36 right now, you don't qualify. So let's say back in the 70s, you came here as a child. Your parents brought you. You're illegal.
Right.
You went to the military.
Right.
You're educated. You have a high school diploma.
Yeah.
All this stuff. You've been here for 20, 30, 40 years. Doesn't matter. You're older than 36. You don't qualify. You were outside of the U.S. when this was signed. You could qualify for all of this. But if you were in, let's say, Mexico, at the time that Obama signed this, that's it. You're not eligible. So, like, you were deported or something like that. If you are not educated, if you're a high school dropout, you are not a DACA person. And if you are a criminal, either in prison or having been convicted of a felony or a major a serious misdemeanor, or connected to terrorism, this doesn't apply to you. Now, this is why, out of all the illegal immigrants we know we have, millions and millions and millions of them here in America now, only 800,000 of them, which is anywhere from, depending on what number you want to agree to. Some people say as little as 11 to 12 million, which is grossly understated, I believe, or as many as 20 to 25 million people here illegally. That being said, we have anywhere from 3 to 7% of all illegal immigrants would be considered DACA. But based on this list, this would be the best of the best. This would be the top 3 to 7% of illegal immigrants that we probably would put as a low priority. Let's put it to that for deportation, I would think, if we were going to prioritize all this. So what is the argument? So the Never Trump and the Never Trumpers, which would be like your Ben Shapiro's, and then you have your Trump skeptics, which are like who'd be considered a Trump skeptic? A Trump skeptic would probably be like the people that were just totally a part of the MAGA movement big time, and then all of a sudden are having this visceral reaction to the possibility of some amnesty for this very small group of illegal immigrants. So they were initially triggered because they felt like they were promised the end of DACA on day one of his presidency. I don't know. I don't know if it wasn't a priority, if he did say that or what, but it didn't happen. And to them, for that, I would say, well, it happened. It's going to happen. So let's just move on from that. I don't see the reason to argue over being mad about it not happening on day one. So I really don't know what to say about that.
Not only that, but I'm going to tell you right now, folks, a lot of things the media is not talking about, and this is not to sidetrack the issue, but the things the media is not talking about that Trump is doing to make America great again, it's because they're dumb. They're literally dumb.
Who?
The media.
Oh, the media.
They don't realize that the gutting out of regulations that Trump has done and is currently doing.
Oh, yeah, the list of things
is going to literally light this rocket of an economy in America. So don't get bogged up in the time frame of things. He is moving at light speed.
No president has ever moved.
No,
like
he's
this.
moving so fast that his own party is saying, "Whoa, dude, we've got summer recess, we've got fall recess. You don't know how this works up in here. We don't do that fast, man."
I think there's just people, and these are great. I'm really glad that they're involved in politics. These are people who have never been involved in politics in their life. And they're just happy to see that there's going to be a president that's going to actually get something done. They're going to they appreciate that it's going to were we too loud on the oh, sorry about that, because now I can't hear myself. So I like to hear myself talk.
I know.
So anyway, let's go straight to the other list of things that the Trump skeptics are saying is their argument. They're trying to claim, some of them are claiming, well, listen, this was the issue. The thing that got me to like Trump and want to support him and want to get on the MAGA train, the Trump train, was his hard stance on immigration. And that's why I voted for him. So they're basically saying they're a single issue voter. They won't say single issue voter, but you know, the way they say that, they might as well say that. Another thing they'll say is any amnesty whatsoever, any amnesty, would undermine the rule of law.
Now, if you've been listening to Smith Radio long enough, folks, and not you don't even have to be listening that long, but I know for a fact we've talked about this multiple times, especially during the campaign, the run-up for Trump. We've been doing the show before Trump even announced running for president.
Oh, yeah.
We've been doing it for 4 years, folks, and these are ideas that we would entertain with each other, and we would talk about it.
Yeah.
Air out the dirty laundry.
Oh, yeah.
There will be no trail of tears. I promise.
That would be shocking.
There will be no trail of tears. And the only way for that to happen, and what I mean by trail of tears is to take every illegal, tie all their hands to hand, one hand to another hand, and literally walk them across the border and say, "Good luck, Chuck."
Kind of like what they did. Van Buren and his administration did to the Native Americans in the South. They walked them straight across the Mississippi and beyond, and said, "All right, good luck, guys. You're out of here." It was a trail of tears. They took them from their home, but And we made the argument why the Trail of Tears is actually morally defendable because of the fact that we warred with them, and it was a war. It was a battle of civilizations. That's
Right.
what it was.
But now
don't want to get off on a tangent.
Right. No. But now what we're sitting with right now, and the great analogy, if you want to tell it, I can tell it. Either way you want to tell it. The great analogy that came from the politician Bill this week. Folks, we were at two different events this week, Carrie and I. We spent time.
Bill Seitz.
Bill Seitz. We spent time with Joni Turner. Who? Joni Turner. Why did that come to my head?
I have no idea.
Taylor.
Oh, Mary Taylor.
Mary Taylor.
You need to write this stuff down. That's what you need to do.
See, I got so much on the brain right now. So
She's
hanging
the
out with Mary
lieutenant
Taylor.
governor.
Right, and she's running for governor of Ohio. And while we were in the meeting waiting for her to show up, Bill Seitz told the story about the best analogy he's heard yet of immigration, DACA, illegal immigration, and the whole mix of it all.
Yep.
Do you remember that story?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell it?
He basically, let's see, what was the story?
Okay, so imagine you were...
Brian's a better storyteller.
Imagine you were raised up with a mom and dad, and you had no idea what they did for a living. You just knew they would leave for a few hours at night, maybe 4 hours at night, and then come back home. And there's all kinds of cash.
Well, yeah, you're rich. You grew up wealthy.
Right. You had cash in closets, kind of like that Jim Carrey movie, The Mask, where he's trying to get all the money up in the closet and shut the door before the lieutenant comes into his apartment.
Right.
Yeah, you just got cash everywhere, and you just know that that's what it is. You don't know no different.
Right.
So then all of a sudden, you turn 18, 19 years old, and your folks look at you and they say, son or daughter, your mom and I are going to take a long vacation, very long, in another country. Probably not going to be coming back.
So here's a couple $1 million to live on.
Right. You know the money down in the basement. You can have the house. You can have all the cars. And you know the money in the basement. It's all good. You can have it all.
We'll just make sure you tip the pool boy when he comes and cleans the pool.
Right. And we're going to take a duffel bag with us, and that'll be about it. Probably won't be in contact for a long time because you're going to be wondering, Mom, Dad, why? Why? That don't make no sense. Well, son, well, daughter, we've been robbing banks for 18 straight years. That's why we're rich. Now the feds are hot on our trail.
We're out of here.
We're out. Peace out. And they literally get out of Dodge and they're gone. And you're sitting there in a mansion, multiple cars, and stacks of money everywhere. Who in their right mind thinks for one split second that child should be able to keep that lifestyle and all that stuff?
Yeah, the argument is, well, he has all that at no fault of his own.
It wasn't his fault.
It's not his fault. We can't punish him for the actions of his parents.
That robbed the banks. He didn't rob no bank. He didn't even know there was
Right.
bank robberies going on.
So the argument is that, no, of course we take the money from the kids.
You take the money, they seize the house, they seize the cars. There's a huge investigation.
Right.
It's a big mess. And we're talking about legal citizens that broke the law.
So the analogy is that when you bring the kids over from some foreign country and you get to reap the benefits and awards of being in America, even though it's illegal,
Right.
that we shouldn't just assume that the kid should continue to benefit or whatever. And he pointed out, well, maybe we could have some sort of a fine that they would have to pay over the course of so many years, or maybe we could require them to serve a certain number of years in the armed forces or the Peace Corps or something like that. And I don't think that ever happens. I think that you're getting into problematic territory there, but it sounds good.
It was pie in the sky the way the politician was preaching it to us. He said, yeah, I think, you know what? You guys pay your debt to society by serving in the military, going to going. And he said it like that. I got a crack on this dude, man.
Bill Seitz.
Bill Seitz is not
He's very charismatic.
Charismatic is for sure. This is his. He was born and bred to do just this. Be a politician.
Oh, you could tell.
And he was probably an original Never Trumper.
I could tell.
But has come to grips with saving his career and advancing his career by somewhat straddling the fence, if you will.
He's terrible. When it comes to his
it was pretty rough.
Support for Trump, it's terrible.
Right. But he was saying if they joined the Army, the Navy, the Air Corps, Marine Corps, he just kept stumbling.
I'm like, how old is this guy if he thinks it's called the Air Corps?
Right, and how many drinks has this dude had?
Well, he wasn't slurring or anything like that, but...
The Air Corps, the Army Air Corps, ended in 1949 and was reborn as a new branch of the military called the Air Force.
Oh, my goodness. So he made an argument there, but I think that there's a problem with that argument.
Oh, with the whole analogy?
Yeah.
Oh,
I do.
What's the problem with the analogy? Because I thought it was really good.
Well, there's something sacred, and I'll bring it up in my monologue here.
Should the kid that has all this stuff, should he be allowed to keep anything?
Yes, maybe. Oh, it's hard.
It's all stolen.
It's a bad analogy. There's a fatal flaw in the analogy.
Okay.
And let me give a retort to all the different things that the Trump skeptics have said. Number one, they said he would do it on day one. Number two, he said, I'm a single issue voter, and it's hard. His hard stance on immigration is why I voted for him. They also say any amnesty whatsoever would undermine the rule of law. Another thing they said, which I haven't read yet, this will not make America great again.
Dude.
And also there's other minor details such as, well, this is chain migration and blah, blah, blah and all that. But we already know. Well, here's my retort. This is a hot potato with a lot of variables. It needs to be done right and carefully thought out. A lot of thought needs to be put into it to do it right.
Right.
I don't believe people when they say that they only voted for Trump because this is the one issue. This is the only one issue, and that's it. And even if you could convince me otherwise, what Trump is actually trying to do, whether you see it or not, is a big part of making America great again.
Right.
All right. And so that takes care of I'll make the case in a second here. Trump tweeted out that the immigration fix that the Congress must put together must eliminate chain migration. So he's not going to allow anything to go through without a veto. That's going to allow for chain migration into the future. He obviously recognizes that as being a problem. But here's my big controversial final word on DACA. You let me know what you think of it, Brian. But this is my final word on it.
Uh-oh. Let me get on the message board. Where are we at, guys? Where are we at?
Gee. We're gonna have a mass exodus on the. So here's my final word on DACA. The rule of law in question is immigration law. When applied directly and properly from day one, it's a pretty straightforward and simple thing, There really isn't too much drama when the law is to send people to what we call home. That's the key word, right?
Right.
Home. And for illegal aliens, home happens to be in their native country, their country of origin. But after a long train of corrupt individuals, corrupt officials, corrupt people that we elect into office, who have found it personally advantageous to ignore the law and the sovereignty of our country, new consequences emerge from that. Illegal children who have lived and went through a majority of their childhood and all of their adulthood in the USA, right? Isn't that true?
Right.
This is what we're talking about. These DACA kids spent most of their life, they're illegal, that's true. They spent most of their life most of their adulthood in the USA. Therefore, many of the DACA people who qualify are their home to them is the USA. Right?
Right.
There's nothing morally questionable about telling somebody to go home.
Okay, so if you tell DACA kids to go home and they say no, then
I'm not talking about DACA kids. I'm saying anybody. If you tell anybody to go home, there's nothing morally questionable about that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
But there's something inherently controversial about forcing educated, civilized, and otherwise law-abiding people out of their home. I just lost half my.
I lost it too.
Ouch. That's annoying. Sorry about that. There's something controversial about forcing people, especially civilized, educated, and otherwise law-abiding people, out of their home, outside of it being the consequence of war, maybe. The time for rule of law was in the beginning. The moment we failed to enforce the law was the moment we created an unintended consequence, right?
Correct.
I'm for fixing the problem the most humane way possible. Fixing it, in my opinion, is a system that gets rid of 96% of the people that don't belong. And secondly, that fixes the unintended consequences that was created by our failed and corrupt politicians. If that means taking people from what they believe to be their homes, then so be it. That would be Trail of Tears. I'm going to take them from what they believe. This is what they believe their home is. Why? Because not because they want to be in America, but because they've been in America.
Right.
Right? They truly believe this is their home. And if you want to take them from their home and do what CNN's going to paint it the Trail of Tears, then so be it. But that will come at a very heavy political price. And that's why I'm convinced it will be solved through amnesty for the top 4% of illegals who call the USA their home. That means the deportation or a system that leads to the either forced or self-deportation of 96% of illegal immigrants in America right now. So we're not talking about what I think that people don't know what DACA is. When you talk about no amnesty, no amnesty, no amnesty, guys, you're thinking of the guy who barely speaks English, who came over here just recently. They hopped over the fence all by themselves. They were 30 years old when they hopped the fence, right? This is what you're thinking needs to be deported. What I'm talking about, DACA is something you need to know exactly what it is, and we defined it. We defined it by telling you what the qualifications or requirements are for being in the DACA program. These are the lowest priority illegal immigrants that we should have that we should be looking for deportation. Lowest possible priority. If it ends up being that Donald Trump makes a deal with Congress to allow the best 4% of illegal immigrants to stay here so that we can deport or put in place the actual system that's going to get rid of the 96% of people that don't belong here. When I mean don't belong, I mean they know where home is, and it's not the USA. That's what I mean by not belonging here. DACA people, if you know what a DACA person is, a DACA qualified person is, their home in their mind is here in America. So if you don't understand that, or if you think that I have something wrong with my argument, I would love to hear it outside of just making you feel bad. If it makes you feel bad to think that some kid is going to get one over on the U.S. or get one over on some other somebody that's standing in line. I mean, if everybody gets deported that's technically illegal, I'm not going to have a problem with it. I'm not going to oppose that. That's another thing, too. I do not want anybody listening to this program or who hears it in the future come at me and say, you pushed for DACA amnesty. You pushed for amnesty for DACA. No, I didn't. I just said that when it happens, you better not be upset about it. But if DACA ends up being the DACA people end up being deported, I'm not going to rally for them. I'm not going to picket for them to stay. I'm just saying it's coming, and that everybody should be mentally, psychologically prepared not to have an adverse reaction, because it's going to be something that's going to help us make America great again. It's going to be the bargaining chip that gets us. 96%. Who on earth ever thought that we would be able to have a system in place that deports 96% of illegal immigrants? And do I believe that actually all 96% of them will be deported? No. I talked in my scope, my scope about how, if you have a grandmother that does not qualify for DACA, she's totally illegal, she has no way to get a job because E-Verify prevents her from doing it. Let's say that,
or she's old.
Well, let's just say she's in her 50s and or early 60s, and she needs money to survive. Right. She needs to have some sort of employment in order to put food on the table and to pay for her rent and whatnot. And everything ends for her. All the American programs, all the Social Security or social programs end for her. E-Verify prevents her from going out and getting a job legally. If this is your grandmother and you really don't want her deported, I would be fine with you allowing her to stay in your house and supporting her. Be her sponsor. I would have no problem with that.
No, I agree. And folks, I'm really close to this situation. I lived out in L.A. for a little over 10 years. And when I say to you, or when people are like, this is a little bit off the topic, but this is the similar thing. When somebody says, if you can tell that somebody is gay, you have gaydar. Okay? Well, I swear to you, and everyone in SoCal knows, there is a radar that you have that you can tell that there's something not right with this individual, probably no tienes papeles, which means have no papers. It is the guilt that is on their face. It is the lack of confidence. If you've never been outside of America, I'm for real, folks. If you've never been outside of America, it's going to be very difficult for you to wrap your head around what I'm saying. I was dumped in Italy during the 90s with the Air Force. Carrie was over in Okinawa, Japan. Just short, brief time, but you may know what I'm saying, Carrie. When I would go off base and go get lost, just because that's the kind of person I am, I'm very adventurous, and I'd go get lost in Italy and just travel around. I rented a car and just started driving.
By the way, this is how Brian became a coffee snob. True. Because apparently they have really good coffee in Italy.
Oh my goodness, it's sick. And it's all day long. All day long.
Just sucking
all
down
day and all night.
Espressos. And...
Right, and their coffee shops, they also sell liquor. Like in America, it's called Everclear. It's like pure grain liquor. In Italy, It's called grappa, Grappa, grappa. And it's just, you just put shots of liquor in your coffee and you drink it.
That sounds like our baseball coach in high school.
Did he look like Walter Matthau on the Bad
He
News
did!
Bears?
He did. Well, Walter Matthau didn't have a big Tom Selleck mustache,
the
but
pedo
ours
stash?
did.
Okay.
No, this wasn't even pedo stash. It was a Tom Selleck stash.
Selleck stash is a
Yeah.
whole other thing. So, but seriously, folks, when I would get lost in other countries, there is a sense of this closedness that you're lost. You don't know where you are. Even if you're looking at a map, you're not sure where you are. And the locals that live there, like if somebody came here to my city, my hometown, and I'm walking out the local grocery store and I see him standing outside his car on the back of the trunk looking at a map, I know he's not from around her. But if he doesn't have a map, he's probably going to be lost. It is a telltale sign. You can see it written on their face that they just don't have stuff.
Papeles.
They don't have papers. They're brand new, and it comes off. Especially when you make eye contact, and that's a big thing. They do not make eye contact at all. So when you make eye contact with somebody who is illegally here, they will dart their eyes down and walk away. They don't know who you... Yes!
They obviously have not seen the movie Catch Me If You Can, because if they did, they would know better.
They do absolutely the opposite of Catch Me If You Can. They run and hide if you... Don't look at me if you can.
Right.
It's bad.
Right.
So when we talk about the illegals and self-deporting, this is a fact. This is true. This really, really works. And I personally know individuals that self-deported that deported themselves.
I'll give you, and I know I've talked about this on... Oh, go ahead.
Deported themselves. He worked next to my shop in a body shop. Go figure, working on body shop in the cars. And he wanted papers. He kept talking to me about getting papers. I said, I don't know anything about helping you out with papers. I'll do it legally. Just go do it. He said, I can't. I've already been deported twice. And he wasn't speaking like that. It was really broken Spanish, and I had a friend of mine that translated. Anyway, long story short, he sent most of his money back to Mexico to his family. The numbers on the statistics of illegal immigrants sending money back to Mexico creates Mexico's second largest export next to oil. I mean, it's just insanity, folks. So I digress.
Which is how they're paying for the wall, by the way.
Right.
Because we're going to keep that money that would have went back as an export for them.
Right. So they're sending all this money back to help out their family, and they do it on purpose. They know that if they can come over here, this is the dirty secret you will not hear on any radio show, any broadcast, right here on Smith Radio, folks. The dirty little secret is all that money, billions of dollars. I'm telling you, Western Union has made hand over fist, money over money over money, based on transactions going to Mexico. It's a fact. They send it back, and if they have run in with the law or they're deported, at least they had that opportunity to send money. They got in the game, they tried it, they got a little bit of money, they sent it back, and so this guy in the shop would do that. He got caught crossing the border because he wanted to go back and see his family again. And it was his third deportation. He got sent back to Mexico. He told us, he said, I can't keep doing this. It's so frustrating. I'm never coming back to America again. I said, well, you can't. He said, yeah, well, I mean, I could, but it cost him thousands and thousands of dollars in penalties to be sent back. And he doesn't want the hassle of frustration. So he's going to do his own body shop and go back to work like he did in Mexico. That's what really happens when they get sent back. People that have been here, illegals that have been here for 5, 6, 7 years. This is dirty, folks. You're hearing it first. They've been here 5, 6, 7 years. They know at any moment they can be sent back.
Like every day is their last.
They know at any moment. They are not the protesters. Hell no, they're not they don't want their face on the TV. They don't want you knowing that they had no pay.
So then what do you think about it then?
It is a staged BS, George Soros, Hillary Clinton, DNC.
They're screwing up. They're screwing up bad. They
GOP,
have
insiders.
They think that, and I'm basing this off of pictures that I saw used as propaganda. They're dressing up these people to look like, like they'll have somebody in full Muslim garb holding up a sign that says, I'm DACA and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's not helping.
Well, not only that, but
that's not helping.
But prove it. I don't believe you.
Well, no, I mean, I'll take their word for it. I'm just saying if
who's dressing up like that, holding the signs that
there'll be like a rally, and they'll be holding up these DACA signs. It'll be like a Save DACA program type rally, and they look like people that haven't assimilated to America, And that's the problem. They need support of people who are of the American culture.
But this continues the divisiveness, the dividing of America. This is their platform. The DNC platform is to continue the division of America and make you and me feel guilty for not allowing the division. The division is going on right now.
Well, they're using the European model.
They will, yes, and they will make you feel guilty as hell.
It's not going to work
until you accept.
It's not going to work
and submit to Allah.
It's not going to work because
also known as Lucifer.
They're using a failed European model. Europeans. There was a very interesting video. I don't know if it's Black Pigeon Speaks, I think, that made a video, and I tweeted out. You can search it. If you just a little pro tip for you guys about Twitter, you can search people's tweets, and I found some doozies from way long time ago. If you know how to search properly, you want to start with their Twitter handle in the search box, and then the right keywords. And I believe that my tweet was, "This is the most important video you'll ever see," or something to the effect of that. So if you want to search it on Twitter, you put in my handle in the search box, space, and then maybe important or video or something like that, and you'll find it. And in that video, he makes the case, very, very well done, by the way. He makes the case that actually, did you find it, Brian? Because if not, you could probably do @SmithRadio space important space video or something like that. And that way, maybe it'll come up, and or most important or something like that. And in this video, Black Pigeon Speaks makes the case that Europeans, especially Germans, are committing cultural suicide. They want their country, they want their culture, they want it dead. They want it completely gone and dead. And
how long is that?
I'm
going to like it.
Oh, it's like probably 10 minutes long.
Okay, I'm gonna like it and retweet it.
But it is it's the most amazing video that I've seen all month, at least, maybe even all year. What I call it the most? What would the tweet say?
This is the most interesting and possibly most important videos I've seen all year. So type in @SmithRadio important video, and it's the first thing that comes up.
Good.
I'm actually going to copy the link, and then I'll paste it in the show notes. So if you're listening to this on YouTube or iHeartRadio or iTunes or anywhere around the horn, and that one Russian website, that social media thing that we belong to, if you are there, just look in the show notes and it should be in there.
Cool. And here's the thing. The European model is, look, these people hate themselves. White Europeans in Europe, they hate themselves. They hate their country. They hate their culture. And they want it to die so that minorities could stop hating them. They believe they're like, no, I'm on your side. Let's just destroy our culture and destroy our country, and let's just turn it into a Muslim continent, and maybe they'll stop hating me. They honestly think this. And they're trying to use, first of all, they're using that phenomenon against Europeans in whatever country, they're all their respective countries. And it's working. It's absolutely working like an absolute charm. Joey Manorino has been living in Europe for months and months and months. And he told us this all the time. He would say, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe what happened. A big giant terrorist attack just happened a mile away or a block away. And I'm down at the cafe right now, and everybody's saying we need to stop treating these Muslims so bad so they stop killing us and bombing us and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm not kidding.
That's right. That was it was in London when we had him come on the show.
Yeah.
And he talked about it. He said he went down to the basement of his hotel, down to the coffee shop, and he just eavesdropping, just kind of trying to listen.
Right.
And that is literally what they were saying, was that we've got to be more inclusive.
Right. So the case was that they're trying to do that with all of Western culture, including America. And the people who are successfully doing this in Europe, your George Soroses and everybody like George Soros, who's funding and using the propaganda in this way to get them to destroy their own country, are trying to do this same thing in America. But I'm telling you right now, and you all know, whoever's listening, but in case you might doubt it, hear me out. It is not going to work in America. There are too many people that are too patriotic. They have pride in this country, and they and rightfully so. They have justified righteous pride in America because we do have a great culture. We have a great country. Capitalism is definitely superior to socialism and communism. And we know this, and we're going to fight for it, and we're going to defend it, and that's just the way it's going to be. So when they come in here and try to guilt trip us into committing cultural suicide, it's just not going to work. It's not going to work. So, but I am glad that we're all aware of it, aware of the attempt to get us to do that. So that way, at least, that decreases the chances that it could possibly be successful one day. But we also need to raise our children, if you have any children or grandchildren out there, to make sure that they're aware of the greatness of America and the lies that are coming out. Speaking of which, this would be a great segue.
So I just tweeted that out on Periscope, the link to that video, to Kerry's the video that he posted on Twitter.
Great.
And I also I put it out on our Spreaker page, smithradio.info, where the live show is held, as well as in the show notes. So it is everywhere, folks. If you're listening to this on a podcast, on a replay, and it's not Sunday night, just look down the show notes. It is all there.
Cool. And by the way, this would be a good time to remind you guys to support us and what we do on patreon.com/smithradio. We're also going to try to go to Covfefe Fest on November 4th, and we will need...
Is that what they're calling it now? Covfefe Fest.
Yeah, that's what it's...
Oh, cool.
They called it that a long time ago. But yeah, the November 4th MAGA meetup in California. We will need help to get out there, though. We can't just pull up stakes and just go down there. So please, if you would like to see us get some face-to-face time with the fans...
As well as the politicians and the speakers that are going to be there. Antonio Sabato Jr. is going to be there.
We need to make these network connections to increase the quality of our programming, and also to increase the quality of America, to make America great again, because we're also involved in programs that are going to require us to get face-to-face with as many people from as many different places as possible. So please help us to do these things by donating to the GoFundMe.com/Smith3, the number 3. So that's SMYTH, the number 3. And that's to get us out to the Covfefe Fest. Thank you so much for everybody who has contributed to that. And moving right along, since we're talking about destroying America, the thing that does it, not just money from Soros, it's a lot of propaganda out there. Propaganda left and right. And we need to be aware of that.
It's more than misinformation, folks. This is intentional lying, cheating, stealing, intentionally skewing history, destroying history, rewriting history on purpose to
destroy America.
Steer the narrative that they're right and everything that we say is completely wrong.
Yeah, and I believe it may have been Abraham Lincoln who said something to the effect that, I'm paraphrasing here, that the death of America will have to come from within. Will never be defeated by some outside force. It would have to be destroyed from within. And so the people from outside who are trying to destroy America are trying to destroy America by getting us to turn on her. Pretty much a coerced suicide, if you will, is kind of what they're trying to do. So there's lots and lots of propaganda out there. But this week, somebody tweeted out a meme, if you will, or what is this? You guys see this? This is a graphic.
I'll go ahead. I'm going to put that. If you guys are on Periscope right now, I'm going to go ahead and put that graphic up so you can see it.
Yeah. So while Brian's getting to put that up, so this, I believe, Brian, you might want to actually tell us what the background on this is. All I know is that Brian showed it to me. I said where'd it come from, and he said somebody posted it up on Twitter as a graphic that they took a picture of. That was from their child's either book or something.
It was from their school, but there's a guy in running for political office in Alberta, Canada. So this is America Junior. It is up north. Okay. It is Canada. They are socialists trying to push the narrative to communist. That's just what they do. Socialism is just the Greyhound bus on its way to the town Commiesville.
Right.
That's all it is.
If
Socialism is the vehicle to get you to communism.
Yeah, if communism is the destination, yeah. So it's interesting. So I'm looking at this, and if you guys are on Periscope right now, you can actually follow right along. You have this spectrum that goes across the top, and then there's some more details about it below the actual line that goes across the top. And you can see all these different points. And right in the middle, there's a vertical line to indicate the center line of this thing.
This would be a centrist party that is where everybody should be, according to this map. If you're not here in the middle, you're a loser.
Right. And they have the Green Party there. They have, what's NDP? I don't even know what that is. And then way down far to the left is communism. And they use the word communism because that's the dirty word. So they don't want – everybody knows that when you hear communism, you think, well, that's as far left as you can go. And we don't want anything to be anywhere near that.
NDP?
Yeah, what is that?
New Democratic Party.
Yeah, see, that might be some Canadian stuff.
It's a social democrat political party in Canada.
So pretty much socialist. And they put that the furthest left thing before you go way down the end to communism. There's nothing left of the NDP, but there is a lot of space, and that is by design.
To let you know, they are so far from the evils of communism.
Right, because everybody knows. I mean, they want to be careful there. They have liberal to the right of center.
Now, I will make the caveat. They may be speaking of
classic liberal.
Classic liberal, what the word liberal originally meant,
which is
in America before the Democrats stole it.
So the Democrats stole liberal, and now when you hear liberal in Europe, what they're referring to is what we would call classic liberal, which is probably the closest thing that I would be able to describe it in America would be libertarian.
Right.
Which libertarian is – the only reason I say libertarian could even be close to the center is because there are a lot of people that actually are left-wingers who claimed in the past to be libertarian. So I guess that kind of has that – it's a pretty broad spectrum on libertarian scale. They also have Democrat USA to the right of liberal, which is to the right of center – totally, completely. They could not possibly be any further.
So wrong.
Now, maybe back in the late 50s, early 60s, you could say that the Democrat Party could possibly, maybe was to the right of center. Maybe. But today, the Democrat Party has been fully 100% infiltrated and taken over by communists. So
the leaders of the Democrat Party currently, right now, the leaders, number one and number two, both of them, are hardcore Muslim, Islamist, extremist, pro illegal immigration, pro amnesty, pro death for babies, just all the things that are wrong with America. The two heads of the DNC are on board with everything that's wrong with America.
Well, and the last Democrat president was a cultural Marxist. He was formally trained in community organizing, which is definitely an arm, a subheading, if you will, of the Communist Party. I mean, you could not possibly be – we've never had more of a communist as president than Obama, minus maybe Woodrow Wilson, but that's debatable.
And I apologize. It's Tom Perez, the chair, former U.S. Secretary of Labor under Barack Obama, and the Islam himself, Keith Ellison.
Ah, okay. Muslim himself or Islam himself?
Muslim, Islamist.
He's all of Islam.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
They were going to make him the head.
Oh, I remember
but that stuff started to come out. No. We got to make you number two.
He is number two.
Number two.
Okay. So now this is also a huge this is wrong. This is just factually wrong. They have conservative and Republican to the right, close to the furthest right. But here's the thing. They have conservative closer to the middle than Republican, USA. And that's just I guess it depends. We have some followers probably listening to our show right now who now despises conservatives because he refers to the word conservative to describe rhinos.
Okay, so like Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, John McCain.
Yeah, and I think I'm not going to allow them to hijack the word, and I'm not
going to give the word away. No,
right.
I will not give the word away.
I will not let them steal the word conservative. In my mind, they're just Republican in name only. Rhinos would be a little bit to the left of center. I would put them a little left of center there, is what I would say a rhino.
So here's how it steps out. If you go from 0 is the center and 100 is to either end. So you move out just like, or 50 yards. You're at the 50-yard line on a football field, and you move to the end zone to the right, move to the end zone to the left. We're talking about the right. So on the 20-yard, or on the 40, they put liberal. On the 30, they put Democrat. On the 20, they put conservative. On the 10, they put Republican, USA. And in the end zone, fascist.
See, that right there
fascist.
Is pure propaganda. Pure propaganda. They don't know what the word fascist means. They were literally using ad hominem in this graphic. They're literally using ad hominem. They don't even understand what fascism is. It doesn't really show up on an ideological, a two-dimensional, or one. This is one-dimensional. On a one-dimensional spectrum of ideology, fascism doesn't really show up here. You could be fascist. I would say fascism is where you go. It's like authoritarian. I don't know.
Okay, here's Wikipedia.
Okay,
Wikipedia on fascism.
Which, by the way, you got to be careful.
Yes,
that's
why I like to go to Wikipedia just to see what the left is saying.
Okay,
that's just the way
they're going to lie about this.
Right. Fascism is a form of radical authoritarian nationalism.
Okay.
Characterized by dictatorial power, forcible suppression of oppression or opposition, and control of industry and commerce that came to prominence in the early 20th century Europe. Yes,
that's exactly what I would. They nailed it. They nailed it. Now let's look at this. Before we even look at that definition, let's go back to the graphic real quick. I want to read to you some of the descriptions of what they say communism is and what they say fascism is. So under communism, they say centrally planned economy. I'm reading this from the bottom of the graphic, if you can see that. It's probably being blocked by all the people posting comments. Planned economy, collective economy, and command economy. I agree with all that. So let's look on the other side, on the right bottom of the graphic. Market economy, free enterprise, laissez-faire, and capitalism. I agree with that being to the far right. Here's what the problem is. They labeled the end zone, the far right, fascism. What part of fascism is a market economy? You just read the definition.
Right.
What part of fascism is free enterprise?
Okay, now we'll go back to Wiki for
and don't even get me,
folks. You need to understand the word laissez-faire if you've never heard of it before.
Why don't you translate it?
Wiki, again, same Wikipedia, same defining of terms. Both these terms on this sheet they're teaching children are the same. Is that right?
What?
Laissez-faire and fascism is the same on that page.
On the graphic, the graphic, they're saying that, yes.
Here's the definition of laissez-faire. It is French, in case you didn't know.
Because they're the ones that came up with it.
Right. Laissez-faire literally means let do. It is an economic system in which transactions between private parties are free from government intervention.
Oh, my gosh.
Such as regulations, privileges, tariffs, and subsidies. The phrase laissez-faire is a part of a larger French phrase, basically translate to be exactly let them do, let it do, but it contextually means let it go.
So literally, verbatim, by definition,
the opposite.
Fascism and laissez-faire they could not possibly be further away from each other on a two-dimensional or a one-dimensional spectrum
They're polar opposites. Literally polar opposites.
And then here's another big piece of the propagandist puzzle. The very last one says, under fascism, capitalism. Let me tell you something, folks. Let me tell you something. Capitalism is free market, freedom. You can only really, truly exercise free capitalism in the kind of self-government that our founders tried to set up in the beginning. It's really the only way. And we've gotten pretty far away from it. Well, we have today. Have you ever heard of the phrase crony capitalism? It's a misnomer. It's propaganda. It's not crony capitalism. What you're being told is called crony capitalism is actually, in reality, crony socialism.
And I'd like to note that we said that here first on Smith Radio because I was frustrated with Rush Limbaugh continuing to say crony capitalism. Ironically,
he ended up pointing that out.
He changed it. Now he calls it crony socialism.
He must listen to Brian.
Folks, I get so fired up because it has been a travesty, an injustice to human nature as a whole, across the board. The way the word capitalism has been maligned and molested and destroyed. The name has been destroyed and meant to mean fat cats with cigars in back rooms and back dirty deals. Capitalism is the single ideology, and it comes from in the Bible. The Bible talks about capitalism. It is a single ideology that has raised more poor people out of poverty than any idea, action, or notion that has ever been put forth in all of human history. One single ideology that has given poor people the freedom to get rich as they want. They can stop anywhere in between.
They did it on the backs of the poor, though.
Right. So just the real quick capitalism from Wikipedia. Capitalism is an economic system and an ideology based on private ownership, meaning the people own their own stuff, the means of production, and the operation for profit. That's all, folks. It just means that you can come up with an idea. And if you've ever read these books, Carrie and I, we went into a leadership thing and just for years beating each other up about leadership and reading books and raising up that knowledge. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich.
He's like the first motivational book writer ever.
If you've never heard of that, you must stop everything as soon as the show's over and look up Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. When he was a young kid, he was asked by J.P. Morgan to write a book. He said, write this book. I'm going to pay for everything. You walk around. You follow me. I'm going to tell you these ideologies and these things and put it together. Write a book on how to become successful in life. And so he wrote the book. And it is literally the single greatest book if you want to raise yourself out of poverty. You must read this book. And the whole notion of the book is the secret.
Well, and I'll tell you this. Every motivational book, whether it's The Secret, whether it's Awaken the Giant Within, whether it's Guerrilla Mindset, by the way. When I read Guerrilla Mindset, I was like, man, this guy just sounds like he just came from an Anthony Robbins seminar. Like he just came from an
Dude, he lives in California.
Oh, I bet you he did.
Anthony Robbins all up and down the coast.
If I had to guess, I know I've never heard of Mike Cernovich actually admitting this, but if I were to get him to answer this question, right before you read that book, did you go to an Anthony Robbins seminar? It would not surprise me at all if he was like, yeah. And
that's okay. That's okay,
fine.
folks.
That's fine. There's a lot of people that wrote a lot of motivational books over the years, but they all are under the same blueprint, which is Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. He was the original.
And there is only one way to successfully, morally become wealthy at whatever level you want. I don't want to make this a leadership thing, but folks, you've got to know this is capitalism 101. This is laissez-faire. And in English, I was taught laissez-faire means hands off. Hands off. Hands off, government out, intervention, get away, government, hands off. So when you hear laissez-faire, just think hands off.
Right. Let the market forces do their thing.
More money, and this is from the wealthiest of the wealthiest men. J.P. Morgan was so wealthy that literally we had to get involved in World War I because his financial empire was at stake because he was supporting England. So we couldn't let him fall because our economy might fall. I mean, it's a little side note. But this is coming from the wealthiest of the wealthiest that felt that everybody needed to know this. More money, more gold was mined, I believe the term was. More gold was mined from the thoughts of man than ever from the earth.
Now that's interesting.
I mean, think about that. The thoughts of man. The mining of thoughts and tolling over your thoughts. I mean, whether you be an Albert Einstein or not.
Well, that you could become rich from your own thoughts.
And that's all. Like, what did Albert Einstein do? What did he do? What was the basis of everything he did?
He put a lot of lead on paper.
Yes!
A lot of lead on paper. That's all I got to say.
He translated his ideas in his mind onto paper.
And got people to check it and say, wow, this is correct.
Right.
So, no, that's good. Just to finish up, you can get back to the I'll finish up on the graphic real quick. I'm going to read this list on the left real quick. Public ownership, which is government. Higher taxes, collectivism, more government involvement, more regulations, common good is what they're trying.
What else? What gets to the bottom of that?
Equality,
Whoa!
Stability. Does anybody think that Venezuela or Cuba or North Korea is stable?
How about Russia even after ditching
1988?
Even after ditching USSR and going away from communism, I'm here to tell you, folks, Russia is still attempting to recover.
Yikes. So obviously that's a lie. To say that way far to the left is stable. Security, I don't know. I guess if you like a police state.
Do they mean security as in security police or security as in you got a guaranteed paycheck?
Okay. I see what you're saying.
I mean, it could be either one. They don't define it. They don't define it. That you need a guaranteed paycheck.
No, both Brian and I can easily make the argument of how socialism destroys jobs. It makes your job less secure. You may have job security once you get the work because it's impossible to fire you. But if only 10 people could be hired because you're unionized, where a non-union place could hire 100 people, then, job security really isn't good for that region. But getting back to it, and then labor workers. Whatever. So on the right side, private ownership. How is that fascism? Lower taxes, individual initiative. That's fascist. Less government involvement. That is the opposite of fascism. So why would they put fascism on the right side there?
It blows my mind.
Fewer regulations. That's government involvement. Self-reliance. That means individuals, not the government, but self-reliance. Profit motive. Growth. Isn't that nice? Efficiency. Interesting that they wrote that. And freedom. How is that fascist? How is freedom fascist? And then it says business at the bottom. So I just want to get through that graphic to show you. Now, you're probably thinking, well, gosh, Kerry, if I saw that graphic, I would have been, what a bunch of liars, too. Well, there's people that are being introduced to these kinds of graphics that are either, they could be children or they could be young adolescents in school, or it could just be a propaganda poster somewhere where somebody sees that and they say, oh, wow, so just a little bit to the right of Republicans is fascist. Whoa, we need to stop those Republicans. Look how close they are to fascism. When it's actually the opposite. Here's the truth, people. If I were to make a one-dimensional political spectrum, just like the graphic that you just showed, I would have fascism just a little bit to the right of communism. Just a little bit. It would be one notch to the right of communism. It would be as far left as you can get other than communism. because it has all of the same exact attributes as communism. The only thing I would say that, oh gosh, what attributes of communism are further to the left of fascism? I guess maybe when you say that it's collectivism and public ownership, communism is kind of like, I think pure communism. I think the theory didn't involve a dictator.
It looks good on paper.
Right. The theory is that it would be collective ownership of everything, and the government is made up of the collective type of thing, whereas a fascism implies a daddy. The problem is every single communist state we've ever seen requires a police state led by a dictator. Every time. Why? Because human nature does not want communism. It runs against human nature, and so you have to beat and kill and punish a lot of people in order to make it right, in order to make it work.
Correct.
Flat out.
Our founding fathers, the first pilgrims that came over, literally almost epically failed because of the commune set up. It was everybody was dying. Things were falling apart. It was the embodiment of a commune because they believed that would work best. And his name's slipping my mind. Charles.
I don't know.
One of the founders. Anyways, the whole point.
I can't remember.
My whole point is that he had to turn to capitalism. He told each and every person, you can have this much land. This is your land. This is your land. This is your land. Whatever you do with that is all yours.
And it went great.
And it was so successful. It was so prosperous. They were trading with the Indians. The Indians were getting all kinds of goods and services, and we would get stuff from it. We had stuff to barter and to trade with. And the first Thanksgiving, folks, was to thank God for the ideology, the idea of capitalism, to thank God for the bountiful, plentiful food that was produced from each family on its own, being allowed to reap the rewards of their own labor, and the one day of the year they got together to share their goods with each other. Thanksgiving. I'm telling you, man, it's all about capitalism and keeping the government out of it from bastardizing the original intent, the ideology of capitalism itself, because then you get crony socialism.
All right.
Whew.
That was our Thanksgiving episode. Oh, so I'm glad we got to get into that. Propaganda, man, I'm telling you, it's ridiculous. You're going to make sure
William Bradford, thank you. William Bradford, thank you. I am so sorry,
I don't know where
folks.
the Charles came from. I may have been able to figure it out. If you didn't throw out the Charles, that just messed me up. I'm like, Charles Darwin? What? So anyway.
But there was a guy, Charles, that was on the boat. Charles in charge. What do you?
I guess. I don't know.
William Bradford lost his wife and is just a phenomenal man, embracing God, embracing hard work, and embracing capitalism. Proving it works.
So what happened with Trump this week with Elton John?
Nothing. I would do it, folks. I would play it. I would do it, but you know they're going to come after me.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, we can't do it. We can't. You're talking about playing the actual song in question. So what are we talking about?
Yeah, Elton John, the thing from Elton John would just never work. So Trump apparently is blowing people's minds, shredding their thoughts, and has the left so triggered, and I won't do it. I was gonna.
No, you can't play it.
I was gonna say no. If you were listening on Periscope earlier, before when we started the show, I played a rendition of Rocketman by Stewie from Family Guy.
Okay,
but anyway,
Family. I'm not worried about Elton John. I'm worried about the Family Guy producers.
Really?
Oh man, they would be relentless.
Okay, so Donald Trump tweeted out early in the morning.
Uh-oh. Was he drunk?
No, before millennials get it. He doesn't drink.
Oh, I was referring to. You know what? I got it confused. It was Ted Cruz.
You were thinking of Ted Cruz?
Whew. Was that this week or last week?
That was this week, my friend.
Oh, do we have to talk about that?
We'll probably touch later.
All right, we'll touch on.
So check it out.
I don't know how much I want to touch
Donald whoa. I don't want to touch it either. Donald Trump tweeted out at 4:53 a.m.
Okay, that's when he gets up.
This morning. He sleeps 4 hours a day. Doesn't drink and doesn't smoke. Just an incredibly controlled man, other than the last POTUS who enjoyed many smokes of many flavors.
Really?
Obama couldn't pass a drug test if his life depended on it.
Oh, because the Choom Gang thing. Yeah. True.
Anyway, so here was the tweet, word for word. He tweeted out, I spoke with President Moon of South Korea last night, asked him how Rocketman is doing. Long gas lines forming in North Korea. Too bad. Too bad. Here's the thing, folks. People are being set off because Trump is labeling a dictator and an awful, evil, murderous man of North Korea. Trump is that cool kid in school that everybody want to hang out with. And the media is not. They never have been. And they support the kid that was the fool Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, that's right.
Obama was not cool the 8 years that he was president. He was never that cool guy.
They were trying to make him out to be the cool guy.
And I'm not being biased, folks. If Obama literally was really a cool guy.
Well, he was in the Choom Gang.
I'm not into weed. But if he was a cool guy, I'd be like, you know what? Damn it, man. We got to fight that cool guy thing he's got. Oh, Bill Clinton. Okay. We had to fight the cool guy thing he had.
Yeah, he had the cool guy.
Bill Clinton
plays
had
saxophone on Arsenio Hall's show.
Bill Clinton had it. Obama, and that's a juxtaposition. Stand those two next to each other. Obama did not naturally have what Clinton had.
How would you characterize George W. Bush?
Awkward.
Really?
Times.
When he went up, here's what I noticed, and nobody ever remembers this because it's nobody was paying attention as far as the propaganda was that he was this buffoon. They made him look awkward.
Oh yeah. Well, the whole last 5 years of his administration, they've destroyed anything that ever was him.
But he's the opposite of awkward. Remember when he shows up at the wreckage of 9/11?
Oh,
and
even
he said, "Give me that bullhorn!"
Right.
And he starts talking, and the words obviously coming out of his mouth were definitely not scripted. You could actually see the gears starting to grind when he came up with the pretty soon they're all going to hear from us.
Right.
When he said that, hair stood up on every single arm, back and neck, everywhere. And it was just the awesomest thing. And then also there was a couple of scenes of him having to console parents.
I tell you what, now
ones.
that you mention that, I'm thinking of some other instances, but those times where he did do what he certainly more of a man, certainly more confident, more at ease in his own skin.
And look what he did
than Obama ever was.
The first pitch out at Yankee Stadium after 9/11.
Yeah.
He almost blew the back of that guy's glove out.
Right. Obama threw it in the stands to the direct left of him.
You're thinking of Mark Mallory.
Yeah, that was awful. Mark Mallory,
hey,
Obama,
guys,
same thing.
I'm going to give you guys some comic relief now.
Oh, my
When the show's over, get out your pencil and write this down. Search Mark Mallory pitch or baseball pitch.
Like he had a handful of Vaseline and a baseball in his hand and tried to throw it straight.
With his left hand, and he's right-handed.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like.
Yes.
It looked like a guy with a ball made out of glass. Imagine trying to throw a glass baseball covered in Vaseline, or no, oil.
Yeah, dipping your hand in motor oil.
Yeah.
And then gripping a glass sphere.
and as heavy as that must be, right?
Solid glass, not hollow.
And then
solid.
you have to throw it with your left hand, and you're right-handed.
Yeah.
All the way from the pitcher's mound to the. So what happened? It flew all the way. It almost hit the umpire that was standing in the dugout. And he ended up going, "You're out of here," doing the thing with the finger.
Yeah.
You're out of here.
Obama looked like he is not an athlete. Let me put it to you that way.
I know. They try to trick you because of all the basketball.
Bush was a little bit athletic. Trump, folks, go back to Trump. Oh, somebody put up a meme and did a juxtaposition. Same age, Obama and Trump, pictures of themselves, same age, and like what they were 19, 20, whatever.
I don't know.
Trump in his military cadet uniform.
Right.
Obama smoking weed.
Yeah.
I'm not hating on you weed smokers. I just know you ain't leading my company.
Right.
I'm
that's
sorry,
true.
man.
That's true.
If you want to stay home and smoke weed, legalize, do whatever you want. You enjoy that weed. I'm just telling you.
Don't run for president.
They ain't running for nothing.
But if they do, you're not going to vote for them.
I don't think weed smokers can actually run.
We're talking about Obama, our former president.
He didn't run. Oh.
He's a weed smoker.
Right.
And he threw. Did you see that video of Obama trying to sink? I guess it was probably a 3-point.
Oh, he was so sad, so pathetic.
22 shots, all 22 of them bricked. All 22.
I played ball back in the day a little bit.
You would have accidentally hit one, right?
Oh, I promise you. It's been a long time since I've shot some hoops. But I played back in the day. I was really serious about it. My brother and I would play pickup ball at Purdue. We would play in the gymnasium. And there was one game we played against the girls' Purdue team.
Oh, what?
The girls'
Were they
Purdue
good?
team. They won national.
Did they beat you?
Hell no.
You beat them?
Yes.
Oh, man. That's
yes.
sad. That's kind of sad.
Anyways.
You beat the national champions?
But they were girls.
Oh, you're such a misogynist.
I know. Anywho, my whole point is that out of 22 attempts, one, they wouldn't be bricking off the backboard. They would be close.
You got to at least call glass if you're going to hit the backboard.
Right. All glass. Boom. Okay.
Maybe it was an alley-oop attempt. You know, you hit the glass and you jump up and you dunk it.
He's doing like the 1930s underhanded throw.
Free throws.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, yeah,
So
we
sad.
know he's
it's
not
like Shaquille O'Neal trying to attempt a free throw, and it breaks the back.
Now, that would be
They would
meme.
on purposely foul Shaquille O'Neal, on purpose, knowing that he's got technical foul, he gets 2 shots. They know that it's a 90-10 chance he misses both shots.
He's got a 10% free throw.
If that.
No, it's a little
They
bit
would
better.
tell him to practice. He wouldn't practice.
I heard he practiced and he was still that bad.
What are we talking about? We're talking about practice.
Anyway, well, you don't have that queued up?
Right. Okay, so back to Trump's tweet talking about Rocketman. Folks, this whole thing with North Korea is an utter joke. It is an absolute joke, and we've got to treat North Korea as the joke that they are. Launching rockets over Japan, rockets failing on launch pad. People over in South Korea right now, just Google it. Google North Korea rocket fail. That's how I came up with it. And they made these cardboard giant rockets, these tubes. They put Kim Jong-un's face on it and a stuffed animal as a body, and they strap it to a cardboard rocket that has flares, like fireworks in the back.
Yeah.
And they set it on fire.
Okay.
Like they light the fireworks and they set him, the stuffed animal and the picture of him tied to the rocket, and they set it on fire. Yeah, they're making fun of this guy, man.
Oh, he's not cool.
He's an international joke.
Well, there's a channel that I subscribe to on YouTube called Trump Days, and I think Days is spelled with a Z, Dayz. And it's a real pro-Trump channel. But occasionally they come out with this really dramatic video all about how Korea is starting the end of the war, doomsday. And I think somebody in the Trump administration, and thank God Trump didn't show up for this personally, where they reintroduced the doomsday clock. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
They said that now it's 2.5 minutes before doomsday. Let me tell you something, folks, and I know a lot of people that listen to us now are probably, I'm not trying to call anybody out, but they may be old enough to remember the Cold War.
Right.
And for those of you that have been paying attention to my tweets past couple of days, look, man, I grew up in the Cold War my whole childhood, 14 years of my entire childhood, all the way up until I was a freshman in high school. I lived every single day wondering if it was going to be the last.
Right. Well,
every day.
Well, I mean, we were always curious about it, and we talk about it, and if the bomb was dropped, you jump down and hide up underneath your desk and stuff. And
I used to have a dream. This is a real dream that I would have while sleeping, where I would see the missile coming in, and I'd be relatively close to a pretty deep pond. And the pond would be clear. You could see the bottom of it. It's like 10, 15 feet deep. And I would swim all the way to the bottom of it and just try to hang out at the bottom for the explosion to happen, and that all that deep water was going to like help me to survive or something. And I usually don't. I either drown or the heat gets me anyway.
Oh, wow.
This is a dream. I had it probably several times. And so, that's what I grew up in. And the reason why it was a real fear of doomsday is because we all knew that the Soviet Union had thousands of nukes, and we had thousands of nukes. And we know about the mutually assured destruction program, where if either side launched a nuke or their nukes, that the other side would do full retaliation, which would end up being thousands of years of dystopia for the most part. Desert. There were movies made about this stuff. And there were movies made about how, under mutually assured destruction, isn't it possible that there could be a nuke launched by accident?
Yeah, Dr. Strangelove.
Right.
I called it, man.
Or on purpose, like in Spies Like Us.
Oh, yeah.
Where they purposely launched a nuke from the Soviet side, launched by American spies, in order to prompt a full retaliatory response by America, which would maybe help us win the Cold War, but it caused the Russians to do full retaliation. It was all a big mess. And, that's right, they had the Star Wars program. They were going to knock them all out of the sky.
Yep.
So it was going to happen even if by accident. That's how we grew up. Fast forward to today, and they're trying to tell us about 2.5 minutes before doomsday, and the end of the world's coming, and World War III is going to happen, and we're going to have nuclear war, and I'm like, listen, I just can't get excited or upset or worried over North Korea.
And we're not desensitized. Our childhood has not desensitized us from what's real. And what's real is they said this during Reagan's entire 8 years.
Yep.
You are going to kill all of us, Reagan.
We're all going to die.
Yep.
Land of Confusion by Genesis.
I love the video.
He accidentally blew the world up because he wanted a water.
Yes, he didn't know his teeth were in the water
glass. Well, because the room service and the nuclear button were right next to each other.
Right.
And he accidentally hit the wrong one.
Right.
So don't tell me about how we should be worried about a doomsday clock. What the hell are they talking about? I think that we have a good enough relationship with China, because China is the only place that we would have to have any concern about the end of the world at this point, assuming, let's say, we attack North Korea.
China could start launching bodies at people.
That's right.
Around the world and win
through attrition.
As long as India didn't get involved.
Yeah, as long as India stays out of
it. Stays neutral.
They could do an amphibious landing in California.
It'd be all
and
over
make
with.
it. They would cross the Mississippi within a week.
Yes,
I mean flat out. So because of the numbers of people,
and we would run out of bullets.
Yeah, we don't have enough bullets to kill. Flat out. I mean, that's true. So that being said, I guess if you want to make the argument, which by the way, nobody's made this argument, but if you want to make the argument that by doing something about the North Korean regime, that it's going to end up, if you follow the course of all the steps down to its end, that it would end up in a nuclear exchange between America and China, then we could start talking about doomsday clock. But I haven't even heard that argument.
No.
Don't talk to me about a doomsday clock because either A, Korea's going to use a tactical nuke on our invasion force, or B, that they could actually launch this fictitious imaginary nuke that's small enough to fit on this unimaginably accurate nuclear ICBM.
That has never been accurate yet.
Right. And that it's going to hit something on purpose. And that it's going to cause us to do a nuclear retaliation.
Oh, and this is all because of Trump tweeting out.
Yeah, what did he tweet? Oh, the Rocketman.
He tweeted out Rocketman, and one of our followers had tweeted to Trump the meme. Folks.
Oh, boy.
Folks, this is the meme heard round the world. Trump retweeted a tweet, and if you haven't seen it, you got to go to Twitter and find it.
Oh, I got to go now.
Trump tees up. He's teeing up and he's swinging the golf club. That's the first picture. Trump swings the golf club, and the golf ball leaves the view of the camera. Goes outside the picture. Then it comes back into a new picture, shows up, of Hillary standing at the top of the stairs, stepping into the airplane, hits her in the back as she falls face forward. It is the epic. I mean, the dude messed up because he didn't put InfoWars on it. Otherwise, he'd have won.
Well, $1,000. Aren't they giving out like $1,000?
$1,000 better than nothing.
If he had put InfoWars on there,
Trump probably wouldn't have tweeted it though.
Ah, that's right.
Okay,
that's right.
So he got the guy's only got a couple thousand followers. Trump retweeted his meme.
That's awesome,
dude. Epic.
That is so awesome.
That thing went viral. If you follow me on Twitter, Sunday mornings I have fun with Joy Reid.
Oh my gosh, AM Joy, she is so bad. She's so dumb.
It's all.
Why do they put dumb people on the air?
Because they're racist, and they believe if they put a black person on black woman,
they're racist and sexist.
Yes,
because they're
taking advantage of a black woman on the news,
on
the show,
right? So they're exploiting.
Well, just like ESPN exploiting the other woman.
Oh,
we may or may not get to. No, we've got to hurry up. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. So Trump tweeting this out. CNN loses their stuff.
What did CNN do?
Okay, they wrote an article. I didn't read it, but here's the headline of the article.
We don't bother reading articles here.
Retweet. This is an op-ed piece, so it's an opinion piece. So I know it's going to be just awful. I don't even see it, but it said CNN op-ed retweet doesn't equal endorsement. Now Kerry had to teach me what retweet meant back in the day. He said, Brian, no, you don't understand. If you like and retweet, or just retweet, that doesn't necessarily mean. They mean two different things. Like, I've retweeted something that's awful from Joy Reid and my comment right after it, and so you see me blasting on her.
Right.
Okay. But if I liked Joy Reid and retweeted it, you might scratch your head and wonder why.
Right. I think that it's an understood practice on Twitter. It's universally understood. And anybody that tries to claim otherwise, it's going to look like a noob.
CNN is claiming otherwise.
Yeah, you're going to look like a noob if you try to claim otherwise.
CNN says retweet doesn't equal endorsement unless you're the president of the United States of America.
Now, why would they change the rules like that? No, what are they trying to tell us?
They went into a full diatribe of your status in the world. and your status in the world makes you different than everyone else in the world.
Yeah, but why do they get to define it? Why do they get to write the rules?
Because they're seeing it.
They're literally making up a new rule in order to make a narrative that doesn't exist. That's called fake news.
That's why they get the name fake news. Keith Olbermann, if you guys follow me on Sunday morning, Keith Olbermann tends to be a little bit active, and I like to make fun of him as well. He hasn't blocked me yet. Jake Tapper has. I have the honor of being blocked by Jake Tapper, and that's fine with me. Keith Olbermann, I get blasted. I do not get involved with fights on Twitter.
Why not?
I don't do. If you blast Keith Olbermann like I do, and I'm the first to respond to him, you will get hater. Like my response, my tweet to him, my retweet or the tweet that I replied, my reply to his tweet was the first one, had 5 likes, no retweets, and 20 comments.
That's weird.
That's bad. Well, you go into the comments, and it's all Keith Olbermann's filed minions.
Yeah.
Blasting, thinking they're going to trigger me, but I don't go back and look at it, so I don't even care.
Right. I like to do the blast on somebody and then mute them. I like to do that. I rarely block. A lot of times I only block people if I feel like that their ability to see my feed or to see my account could do me actual real harm. That's usually the only time I block people. I tend to just mute them.
Double backsies, quitsies, infinity. You can't say nothing.
Right.
You got to stop saying stuff. I just double backsies, quitsies, infinity to you. I win.
I don't even know what that means.
You blocked them.
Yeah. No. I didn't block them.
Not block. You muted them.
And here's why you can't
you
block
muted
them.
him.
Guys,
You shut him down.
I'm giving you a little tip. Pro tip number 279.
Only block advertisers.
Okay, so here's pro tip number 79. 279. If you block somebody, they can't see anything that you do or have done ever. So don't blast somebody and block them because they may miss that last blast. So you blast them and mute them. That way they have to see it.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
It's a good time. So Keith Olbermann took a screenshot of Donald Trump's tweet.
Okay.
Rocketman.
Okay.
And, Joy Reid, it just hit my head. Joy Reid retweeted a tweet from somebody that said, "Tiny little dancer calls out Rocketman."
I think it was a Twitter moment.
Yes.
It was a Twitter moment.
So they called Trump a tiny little dancer. I don't get that.
I think that
tiny hands, tiny something.
It's kind of like you can't put lipstick on a pig. When Obama said that, after Palin said something about
hockey moms.
Yeah, the difference
lipstick
between
on a hockey mom.
What's the difference between a pit bull and a hockey mom? Lipstick.
And then he comes out and says lipstick on a pig.
You can't put lipstick on that pig. Well, he didn't. That may have been an accident.
No.
It may have actually been an accident that he used the word lipstick about a pig the week after
no accident.
Talked about. Yeah, well, he seemed almost taken off guard by it.
Oh, okay.
But
so Keith Olbermann took a screenshot of Donald Trump's tweet, put it up, and remarked. This is what he remarked. "This is apparently a new taunt against another mentally unstable man with nuclear weapons. At Real Donald Trump needs to be removed via 25th now."
Olbermann is clinically and obviously insane. And so when you start to listen to an insane person talk about other normal people, what seem to be normal. I mean, there's nothing that would lead one to believe that there's any kind of a mental illness when you are making fun of anybody, or if you're dealing with a bully,
right,
in a certain way, which is what Donald Trump is doing with Kim Jong-il or Un or whatever his name is. And so I'm starting to think that the calls for him to be considered crazy projection on the part of Keith Olbermann.
Right. Somebody replied.
He is.
Right. I commented on that, and the positive reply and retweet to my tweet was Keith Olbermann embodies insanity. Like
Yes.
he is
he's the poster child
for insanity.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He lives in his mom's basement.
He's actually pictured in the medical publications.
Right. He got fired from CNN, ESPN, all of them, and now he does his resist out of his basement. Good for him. And it's not hard to be the first to retweet to him. He's not as popular as he would like himself to believe.
So brave.
Yeah.
He's so brave.
So this was put out this week. There was a poll taken where they looked at all news throughout the month of, I believe, the 1st of June all the way through the end of August. So all of June, all of July, and all of August. They looked at ABC, CBS, and NBC on evening news. Now, why they didn't put CNN in there? Probably because it would skew the poll numbers. I don't know. Why they didn't put Fox News in there? I don't know. It might skew the poll numbers. But they took ABC, CBS, and NBC evening news only for 3 months. TV agenda of anti-Trump news. And here's the 4 categories. Russia collusion, repeal and replace Obamacare, North Korea nuclear showdown, Trump's response to Charlottesville. So we know all those 4 stories are trending. Russia, Obamacare, Korea, Charlottesville.
Right.
At the top of the list, Russian collusion takes the winning place. 415 minutes of coverage, 94% of it negative.
Jeez.
Repeal and replace Obamacare, 176 minutes of airtime, 97% negative. North Korea nuclear showdown, 136 minutes, 86% negative. And Trump's response to Charlottesville, 97 minutes, 97% negative.
Anti-Trump news. Is that so you have it at ABC, CBS, NBC evening news from June 1st to August 31st.
3 months, nothing but straight focus. I don't even know if they were this geared up to blast on Bush. I know they hated him.
Oh, they did. It was like nonstop for 5 years.
Was it this bad?
Yeah, it was nonstop. But the thing is there was no pushback on it whatsoever, and it happened.
So they had free reign.
Yeah, what happened is they couldn't. They were negative big time because of the election of 2000 was very heated. It was really close. They had endless recounts. They had hanging chads. They had SCOTUS weighing in on whether we should keep on recounting Florida votes, and it was a mess. And there was people not claiming, they were claiming not to accept him as president. And then 9/11 happened. So when 9/11 happened, the left was afraid to say anything negative about Trump. And then, of course, we went to war with Afghanistan, and they were really afraid to say anything negative about a commander-in-chief during wartime.
Right.
And then Iraq happened in 2003, and from 2003...
I feel like when he said a mission accomplished was like the green light for them to start hacking away at him.
Yes, but I do believe they started it a little bit earlier than mission accomplished, but they kept ramping it up. If you look at the negativity, it was ramping up and up, and then it went full bore. They started a little late, though, because he did end up getting reelected in 2004, but they just kept on going. They kept on going. It was negative, fake propaganda, and it was completely unanswered, completely unopposed. Anytime he had a chance to answer the question, why aren't you fighting back? I'm going to stay. It's beneath the office of the presidency.
Take the high road. Take the high road.
So he ended up. If you look at his negative ratings, his favorability ratings, they kept going down, 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 down until what ended up happening is it moved the Overton window, so that when it came time for the election of a new president, we call that a change election. It didn't matter who ran. Did not matter who ran. They had no chance. If Donald Trump ran in 2008, he would have lost. That's how
bad,
sad, upset, and depressed right-wingers were at that time. And it was because of the propaganda, and it worked.
Right. And so now this propaganda is attempting to work. New York Times, which is referred to as New York Slimes, because that's what they are. They love to slime people. Today, I found it today. They may have written it recently, but I had it in my saved stack of stuff. This week, they wrote a hypothetical article. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? What that means is that Donald Trump met with Representative Tim Scott. And the article points out the only black senator that's a Republican. They had to point that out. Met with Trump, and apparently the conversation was about race relations, possibly Charlottesville. Nobody sat in on that meeting, and no official notes that I know of were handed out to the New York Times about the meeting. However, the New York Times writes this story and says Tim Scott gave Trump a 300-year history lesson on racism in America. The only quote that they have of Tim Scott or of this meeting at all is when Tim Scott left the meeting and they say, and a reporter said, did you talk to him about, did he change his mind on what he said during Charlottesville?
That is so 5 minutes ago.
And the blank look on Tim Scott's face, and then he thought for a minute, and he responded. He tried to explain, he tried to clarify the message he was trying to come across. And it was it, and he walked away. That was it. The entire article was about that, and this made up.
They're obsessed with race.
It is completely made up.
They're obsessed with race. Absolutely obsessed with the fact that they believe that black people and white people are two different species.
Yes!
And that they cannot believe that black people and white people could possibly coexist without the color of one's skin being the topic of discussion 110% of the time.
Always, absolutely, always and forever.
They're so obsessed with it.
Vox is a scandal in itself. It's can't even be considered a newsworthy outlet.
Oh, it's pure. I've already said this in multiple tweets over the course of the past year. I'd say Vox is they exist for purely one reason, and trust me on this, if you watch them, I actually subscribe to their channel.
Yeah.
I do not subscribe to leftists, but I do to Vox, because they are a high dollar, high budget. They're a high budget propaganda outlet. They are literally exist to push a narrative using very sophisticated propaganda. It's actually fascinating to watch. That's why I subscribe to Vox.
It was years ago when I first heard of Vox, and I heard it through Rush Limbaugh.
Very sophisticated.
Before we were even doing the show, and Rush explained that it was a bunch of pajama folks, pajama millennials. Could be women, could be men, but pajama boy type individuals that were asked to set this up, and George Soros money to create this alternative media, if you will. So Vox, I think, stepped in it because I subscribe to them on my phone and I get their articles. I think they attempted to smear Trump with this article, but it actually made more sense to like Trump and disbelieve those people that he's a dictator. You know, like everybody's saying, oh, he's a dictator, he's a white supremacist, Nazi. I mean, you got Hillary Clinton saying dumb stuff like this.
And then his speech, which was a cry from the white nationalist gut.
What? What? Oh, my God.
You get stuff like that, and so...
Please keep calling us white supremacists. Please keep calling us Nazis. Please keep calling us members of the KKK.
It's ruining you. It's ruining you.
But also it's galvanizing us. It's also inoculating us.
Right.
in order to ensure that we show up to the polls, that we stand our ground and we show up. It actually motivates people to show up to rallies and show up to protests and all this kind of stuff. And even like Jack Posobiec, did you hear about the MOAR?
Yeah.
Mother of all rallies?
Yep.
He had the Bikers for Trump there and all that kind of stuff. He ended up catching a part of his scope where he goes up to some of the Antifa wannabes and starts to debate them. And it was heated. And they were throwing out all these falsehoods and calling them racists and all this kind of stuff and calling Trump a racist. Here's the thing. We live in a day and age where you're not going to be able to get away with these lies. Nope. We live in a Twitter age. We live in a Facebook age. When somebody says something about somebody else, there's going to be this crowdsourced reaction where the kind of research that happens, it's like thousands and thousands of people are going to research the truth all at once, and they're going to react to the news, either A, verifying it, or B, falsifying it, or discrediting it, or whatever, debunking it, if you will, so quickly that every single time you try, it's going to slap you right back in the face so hard, and it always does. So please keep calling us KKK. Please keep calling us Nazis. Please keep calling us white supremacists. And please call Trump all of these things. And use source material that's either completely discredited fake news or examples that are actually demonstrably false. Please keep doing that, because it's going to guarantee that you're going to lose, because I believe in humanity. And I think humanity is so disgusted with lies.
Oh, yeah.
And especially being lied to, and the king of all kings being lied about.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing that triggers anybody. I don't care if you're on the right. I don't care if you're on the left. The quickest way to trigger somebody is to lie about them. Right to their face.
About their character and about who they are.
To their face.
Right.
Oh, my gosh. It's the most triggering thing you can do. So you're triggering all of us to run out there, and even if we didn't like Trump, there are people that don't like Trump.
Right, but they'll do it because you triggered them.
Yes, they're like, oh, I'm going to show them. I hope he does get elected. And then he did.
Right.
So, yeah.
And so Vox put this title. Well, after I started reading into the article, it said, this is the one sentence that I pulled out of it that kind of summed up the whole article. 8 months into Donald Trump's term, little of that empirical president is in evidence. Empirical president, ? Hardly. More like the not so empirical president. This whole article was to say...
you said empirical. It says imperial.
Imperial. Sorry about that. Imperial president. The whole article was all about the fact that they thought Trump was going to be this imperial president.
Like an imperialist?
Yeah.
Like Imperial Japan?
Right.
That kind of imperialist?
Right. And juxtaposed with Bush and with Obama, and throughout the whole article, you could see clearly that it was Obama being an imperialist, being an empirical, like the attempting to be the emperor and not the president.
Yeah, remember?
They were slamming people who were saying, yes, he's going to use executive order. He's going to do all this stuff. And you're not going to believe it. He's just going to be the emperor of America. And I'm here at Vox to tell you that's not even close to be true. He's weak. He hadn't done nothing in 8 months. He ain't getting nothing done. You want to talk about an imperial president? Nope, not here we don't see that at all. But then they start to talk about Obama, and it's clear in the article. If you know what we know about Obama and his executive orders, it clearly Obama was attempting to be an imperial president.
Well, yeah. I mean, one of the things he actually said, did we play it last week or very recently, where we pointed out that he was lamenting that he was not
and that was the
dictator.
problem.
Yeah.
No, I am not the emperor.
Yeah, that he wishes he was, though.
Right. Because the problem is I'm president.
Right. That was...
and I wanted to make it a point. A couple of people got it a little bit mixed. I mean, with mince words, but when Obama calls and says emperor, I find that fascinating that he grabbed that word, emperor, when that doesn't seem to be a word we use often in our vocabulary.
Well,
is it? I mean,
when you think of
we don't talk about emperors in our everyday life.
No, and when you think of an imperial regime like Imperial Japan, that implied that they were their goal was for conquest, to increase the size of their empire. That's what that implies. So an empire is something that takes over its neighbors.
Okay.
And that's what Japan was doing. When you hear Imperial Japan, you're talking about spreading out. And of course, once they were defeated in World War II, they actually changed their flag. It used to be the sun with all the rays coming out of it.
With the rising sun.
And that was called the Imperial Japan flag.
Okay.
Now they just have the sun, but the rays don't come out of it. And that's to imply that, no, we're just going to keep it to ourselves. We're not going to
stay here. We're not going
to do anything. I know what you're all thinking. Is he going to freak out? Well, I'm not going to.
Right. So maybe he had said emperor in the sense that because it was to a question having to do with DACA and immigration and illegal wanting him to, when are you going to fix this? He's like, well, the problem, sister, is that I'm not the emperor.
Right.
No, the problem is I'm the president, not the emperor.
Right.
Because if he was the emperor, then he would take over Mexico and swallow them up and give them all the money.
And I actually called for that.
I know. We had a discussion about that.
Does anybody want to hear some more controversy?
No.
Carrie Smith calls for the annexing of Mexico.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we should annex it.
No.
Let's annex it.
Okay. CNN. Now we get into CNN, a plot twist in Trump coverage.
Okay.
I'm curious about this one. CNN writes, is President Trump getting more positive coverage because he is cutting deals with Democrats?
No, I don't think so.
Nancy Gibbs says this is the plot twist presidency.
Yeah, that's because we're listening to everybody's narratives.
And she says, when are we going to stop being surprised at being surprised by what Trump does?
That's a good statement.
It is a good statement. So the whole article was all about what you and I had been discussing all week, and we've been discussing with Sam and other folks in the private message group meetup that we have.
Which you could be a part of if you were to donate as little as $1. Just become a patron at patreon.com/SmithRadio, and you could be a part of the party that we call the text group, the secret.
And some people call it the Smith fam.
Yeah.
Because we all get together. So we've been talking about this all week. Speaker Ryan is feeling the loss. Also, at the Hill, Trump stunned his conservative supporters on Thursday by asserting his willingness to strike a deal with the Democrats to protect young immigrants living illegally in the U.S. So there's a lot of mixed messages here, folks. The news is mixing up the messages. They want you to believe that Republican voters are confused.
Some of them are.
By Trump looking to cut deals with Democrats. But all in reality, it's the rhino Republicans that are refusing to work with Trump.
Right.
That are absolutely shocked that Trump would ever
They worried about
go around, hit their backs.
And one of our most loyal follower pointed that out long before I thought that was plausible, and I thought that was awesome.
It is incredible that it's coming to fruition, folks. Truly and for truly, if you saw our scopes throughout the week, I'm just going to kind of just re-up about some of the things we talked about. In the scope that I did just a couple of days ago, I talked about this. I talked about being a salesman and the art of the deal. And what Trump is doing, and you've got to trust Trump. This is 19D chess? Are we above 19?
No, I just call it 4D chess and just leave it at that.
So there's no 19D chess?
No.
6D.
When people start bringing up the 20D chess and all that kind of stuff, they're jokingly making fun of a move or decision or something that he's made that they think is so bad that it can only be attributed to some sort of crazy genius or something like that. So it's just 4D chess, people.
Okay, 4D chess. What Trump is doing to the Republicans, and you've got to know this, folks, the Republicans have been fighting tooth and nail to stop Trump from making America great again. Lindsey Graham coming to Trump on day one. You got to cut out this drain the swamp BS. We're not going to have no more of this. Or you're going to go to hell.
Because he's trying to protect the swamp.
Right. Lindsey Graham protecting the swamp. I'm just saying that's what this is. And if you are upset that Trump is not getting anything done, be upset at your own rhino Republican Party and the do-nothing Congress, the do-nothing House and Senate. I mean, it's just unbelievable what they're doing. So Trump has to do what a man got to do. You got to do the takeaway. That's what this is in sales. It's called the takeaway. You look at them and you say, well, maybe this just isn't for you.
Ending DACA is kind of the walk away.
Yes. Yes.
It's the, you know what? I guess this ain't happening. Say bye-bye to the DACA kids.
Yeah, say bye-bye to all of them.
In 6 months, it's gone.
Yep.
And so that's going to freak Congress out. It literally is the culmination of a brainstorming session amongst his inner circle and probably some of the most brilliant political strategists that you could imagine. When he came to them and say, guys, just level with me, be honest with me, as crazy as it sounds, give me something that I can do legally that would get Congress to do something, anything.
And not tell me I'm going too fast.
Yeah, so they said, well, what you could do is, and I can give you some suggestions on which ones, but what you could do is you could end an executive order that would cause so much chaos that they would have no choice but to come to session and fix it with actual legislation.
And that's what they're doing. They are freaking out right now.
Yep.
And they know they've got to do something.
Think about it. Does that make sense to you, Brian?
Yes.
Does that make sense to everybody else? Literally, this was the result of a brainstorming of all of his smartest advisors and closest confidants and people that he can trust. And it was an answer to the question, guys, please level with me. I can't sit around and stare at my computer playing solitaire every day. Something needs to get done. I'm 71 years old. The clock is ticking. I got the Grim Reaper over my shoulder right now. Right. I mean,
not Steve Bannon, the real Grim Reaper.
Right. And so something's got to get done. Please just level with me. I won't get mad at you. Whatever the idea is, just tell me something and write it to me in secret and anonymously, whatever. And somebody must have told him, well, if you end an executive order, pick one out. I can give you some suggestions, but pick one out that by ending it, it's going to cause complete pandemonium. That's going to force Congress to do something about that will bring them to the negotiating table.
Because Paul Ryan desperately wants to keep DACA.
Oh, absolutely.
They all do.
Absolutely. It's going to end up being a humanitarian crisis, or at least that's what it's going to be painted as. And they're doing it, or I should say Donald Trump is doing it on months before the election year kicks off, 2018.
Got to show these boys how to grow a pair.
Right. So they're going to be like, oh, You mean in 6 months, DACA kids are going to? You mean
I'm up for re-election next year, fool?
Federal agents are going to be kicking in doors. It's going to look like
during my election cycle.
Remember,
my year.
Elio Gonzalez under Reno,
yeah.
Janet Reno was kicking in the door with her Uzi,
right,
pointing it at the face of some 6-year-old boy that's got to go back to Cuba. That stuff is going to happen. We've been talking about this for months and months and months. I know. Rush Limbaugh this week brought up, it's good. You remember Janet Reno with Elio Gonzalez? You remember what that looked like? Guys, we've been talking about this for probably years now.
Yes.
For years. The mainstream media is going to paint that picture. And Trump enabled that to happen.
Yeah.
Because that is how he's going to get them to the table. You can't have a negotiation for items that are going to make America great again without bringing them to the damn negotiating table.
Yeah, he's attempting to get all these knuckleheads who are stalemating him out, who are just stalling and not doing anything on purpose.
Yeah, they're trying to float it out for 6 months,
Right.
for 4 years. They're
Right.
trying to float 4 years.
Right. They're like, this guy, you think you're going to get something through here? Nah, man. You don't know how D.C. works. This is how we work, and this is how we roll.
They made a big spectacle of the big thumbs down. Rhino McCain, the Democrat himself, I say I'm a R, but you know why? Because the Republican Party is too much of a bunch of feckless cowards to kick me out of it. McCain does the big dramatic thumbs down on Obamacare, on repealing and replacing Obamacare. If you really stop and think about how one thing leads to another, that big thumbs down pretty much guaranteed that DACA was going to get repealed at the most inopportune time for them. This was very carefully choreographed by Trump to really jam it to Congress.
Right.
But it wouldn't have even happened had they just did what they promised to do, which was repeal Obamacare and replace it with something. And when it came down time to it, they had nothing. They literally showed up to school without their homework at all.
None of it.
They had no homework.
Nope.
My God, all this time that Obamacare was put into place, it was voted on, and from day one we were like, we need to repeal this as soon as possible. And not a single lawmaker thought it necessary to bring a couple people together, a couple lawyers together, to actually write something.
Just do something. Do something.
That would either repeal it, replace it, or both. And now they're talking about the Troublemakers Caucus.
Right.
The Problem Solvers Caucus, which is basically a way for them to save Obamacare. I mean, I don't blame Trump for doing what he did, which is really causing chaos before the election year of 2018. And hopefully, if it doesn't result in some of the incumbents losing a primary, which would be that would be awesome.
Right. Well, and we're talking about, we had Paul Nehlen on the show talking about running against Paul Ryan to unseat Paul Ryan.
Yep.
That would be the best thing that could ever happen. And now he's getting so much flack and heat coming from the GOP for attempting to do what he's going to do. And it's just, dude, we've got people on the ground attempting to unseat these rhinos. It's just, you've got to be patient. You got to trust Trump. You got to see the big picture of why he's doing what he's doing. What Trump is doing right now, upsetting the apple cart and making all these shills scream and yell for help, is literally getting them to either do their job or to be replaced by somebody who will do their job. That's the big picture, folks. Seriously.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're really running very, very quickly out of time.
Oh, did we want to get to?
I wanted to hit Jemele Hill right in the eyes.
Jemele Hill. So what's going on with ESPN?
We almost did this last Sunday, but we ran out of time. And didn't Jack Posobiec call us, or was that 2 Sundays ago?
I think he called us 2 Sundays ago.
Something happened last Sunday where I couldn't get it. We didn't get to stack stuff.
Somehow we ran out of time.
But I was going to talk about this. Jemele Hill, black woman on ESPN.
Why she got to be black?
She made it a black and white thing.
Oh, okay.
She made it a black and white thing. Her show that she's on ESPN is down 20% from last year. She is losing viewership very, very bad. Yes, and she also has a is that the family picture, the Christmas?
Oh, with Obama. She's a big Obama person.
Huge Obama fan. 2015, 2016, 2 years in a row, she had her picture with her husband and the Obamas taken next to the Christmas tree, and she's got that pinned at the top of her Twitter account.
Yeah.
So sad. So, what
she's entitled to, but what
fine.
is she in hot water for?
September 11th, last Sunday,
Okay.
while we were on the show, during the show, she tweeted out, Donald Trump is a white supremacist who has largely surrounded himself with other white supremacists. 754. 758, she tweeted out, Trump is the most ignorant, offensive president in my lifetime.
Did she say why?
His rise is a direct result of white supremacy. Period.
Did she explain that, or is she just throwing out random
802.
insults? Random racist insults, basically.
Right. 4 minutes later, 802, he is unqualified and unfit to be president. He is not a leader, and if he were not white, he would never have been elected. So screaming he's white, screaming he's not a leader, screaming he's unqualified, screaming he's unfit, she's having a temper tantrum, if you will, about the President of the United States and calling racism into play, screaming that Donald Trump is a white supremacist. And then literally calling every voter who voted for him also a racist, white supremacist supporter. Listen to her words. He would have never have been elected if he were not white. Meaning, if you voted for Trump, you're racist. I mean, calling Trump supporters deplorable, one thing. Calling all of them racist, an outrageous statement from an insane, racist woman. She's absolutely a racist.
I mean, if you call somebody a white supremacist or a Nazi or KKK or whatever, you better have something to back that up.
There's no backup. She's got nothing. She screams statements.
And it's just like when I was watching video of Jack Posobiec's Scope when he was debating those people screaming at him and stuff like that. They were calling Donald Trump a white supremacist too. And when Jack asked him, how would you say that? I mean, what's your proof of that? What's your support of that? The things that they were saying were demonstrably false. And Jack attempted to try to explain to them that it was not true. And they just shouted back, well, it is not true. It is true. It is true. Well, if it's not true, it's not true. And
right.
we can show you what it is that he actually said and compare it to what you claim he said and show that you're not correct. You're actually wrong. And if you continue to spew that, and especially if it's pointed out to you, if it's like, hey, look, this is what he actually said, and this is why you think he's racist and why you're wrong that he's not racist, because the thing that you think happened or that you think he said or you think he did to make you believe he's racist is not even true. If you then either say, well, I don't believe you, or that's why I still think he's racist, then you are ignorant, totally ignorant, and you are you may possibly even be racist yourself. You obviously have a bias there. The question is it time to start exploring the source of your bias? Is it because you don't have, or that you have a problem with white people? You know, that we could explore that then. There has to be some sort of a reason why you would be so ignorant of facts and truth, and why you would be trying to get other people to believe you when you're spewing falsehoods about people in order to destroy their character. Like, what is wrong with you? What kind of person does that? What kind of character are you that you would hear something, you believe somebody might be a racist or whatever, and because of something that you think is a fact, and then when it turns out that you're wrong, you stick with it? I mean, it's just totally completely ignorant.
If somebody could have proven to me beyond a shadow of a doubt, and I'm not talking about, insane shadow of a doubt. If you could have proven to me that Obama was truly not sympathetic and possibly a Muslim and sympathetic to Islam, if you could prove that to me, I was waiting for anyone. You can still do that to me, and I'll look at it, and if it looks like it's real, that he's not Muslim and not sympathetic to Islam, then okay. However, the facts that I already know, that I already have, tend to point otherwise. So that's why I would say during the last 4 years, if anybody ever asked me, hey, do you think Obama's Muslim? I say, absolutely he's Muslim. He's Islamic, and here's why. Is Obama racist? I'm not sure how racist he is, but he does love to fan the flames of racism.
To me, that is a strong indicator that you are a racist. Why would you fan the flames of racism?
He loved picking out anywhere across the country with black on white crime. White on black crime. He would pick it out, and they would just blast it. He would interject himself into situations. Like if I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon Martin.
I think the beer summit was the worst.
Yeah, absolutely.
The beer summit is where he said that the cop who actually was within his he didn't do anything wrong, and it had been subsequently proven that he didn't do anything wrong. Before all the facts were in, Obama said that the cop acted stupidly, and he didn't even have all the facts. He actually prejudged this cop based on the fact that A, he's a cop, and B, he was white, and C, the person that the cop,
the perp,
whatever, the guy that was the recipient of the cop's use of force was black, and due to those three factors, he just threw out there that he acted stupidly. That's racist.
It's wrong to interject yourself in the middle of a situation like that, especially Trayvon Martin case that wasn't even, it had to go through the courts. There's all kinds of evidence that have to be looked at, and you got the President of the United States prejudging a case based on race.
Well, that was really nuanced. He basically said if I had a son, he would look like Trayvon Martin. That's kind of like saying...
He was trying to interject himself into it to be more sympathetic, so that the country would be more sympathetic to Trayvon the thug.
Right, and it was proven that Trayvon Martin was obviously not behaving in a way that... it turns out that George Zimmerman... did have a right to stand his ground.
Right. But before we get too far off Donald Trump and the Jamil Hill at ESPN, that you should never watch. I don't watch ESPN.
ESPN's asking for it.
So Trump tweeted out, ESPN is paying a really big price for its politics and bad programming. People are dumping it in record numbers. Apologize for untruth.
Untruth?
So, Trump said, apologize for untruth.
Okay, well, that sounds about right.
Okay. Sarah Sanders, during the White House press briefing, was asked about it. She said, I think that's one of the more outrageous comments that anyone could make, and certainly something I think is a fireable offense by ESPN. So the insiders on ESPN, she was to be fired, and then they subsequently walked that back. Then they were going to give her a suspension, and they walked that back. Now, from the people that worked with her, that spoke under anonymity to the Washington Compost, they said that because the other black actors, other black paid individuals on ESPN refused to go on air without her, ESPN told her, you've got to apologize and we'll let it roll. So this is her apology. She tweeted it out and tweeted out a picture of a handwritten apology because 140 characters is too long. So she tweeted out, "So to address the elephant in the room, hashtag facts."
Okay.
My comments, and she is right. These are facts, Carrie.
Okay.
She does not lie in this statement. She says, "My comments on Twitter expressed my personal beliefs." Okay, that's true. You're a racist.
Mm-hmm. All right. Mm-hmm.
My regret is that my comments and the public way I made them painted ESPN in an unfair light. My respect for the company and my colleagues remain unconditional.
So she's admitting that her statements were not in line with ESPN, and that furthermore that it was painting ESPN in an unfair light. She's literally admitting the wrongness of her tweets.
She's apologizing to ESPN, not Trump.
Okay, that's fine.
She's apologizing to ESPN. When ESPN said apologize, she did to them publicly because she was being a racist and ESPN is not racist.
My comments on Twitter express my personal beliefs. My regret is that my comments and the public way I made them painted ESPN in an unfair light. It's unfair. It's unfair for ESPN to be painted as a racist organization. That's pretty much what she's saying.
Right.
It's not fair to ESPN for them to be painted as racist.
You can paint me as a racist, but not
no,
them.
I painted myself as racist.
Right.
It's just a shame. It's just I really regret that the paint all over my body, the racist paint all over me, got all over the floor of the ESPN studio.
Right.
Oh,
Everyone was slipping on my awesome sauce.
Oh, man. Oh, my God.
This is late in the show, folks. This is the After Hours edition.
Gee, we're in the after hours.
So ESPN's comment was, "Jamil has a right to her personal opinions, but not to publicly share them on a platform that implies that she was in any way speaking on behalf of ESPN. She's acknowledged that
Okay.
her tweets crossed that line
Okay.
and has apologized for doing so. We accept her apology. Good night now."
Okay, so they don't want to get rid of her. So apparently they are okay employing racists. And that's the thing. You can employ racists, and I understand that people are going to behave. Racists are going to behave in the way a racist would outside of work. And as long as it doesn't adversely affect your employment, your relationship with your colleagues and all that, I understand that's fine. But this woman is the face of ESPN because she's in front of the camera. She's the one that's on the TV screen.
Right.
And when she speaks as a ESPN talking head, right?
Right.
And so when she says anything publicly, even in her off time, it's going to be reflected on as ESPN. So did it paint ESPN in an unfair light? If it did, then you need to apologize to everybody for your opinions. You should say, look, my opinions suck. Okay, they suck because they paint me as a racist. So I should resign because I don't think that it's fair for ESPN to have as their front woman a racist because it unfairly paints ESPN as a racist organization. So therefore I have one of two choices. I could either stop being a racist, which by saying, look, they're my opinions and I don't regret saying them, or I can resign. So what she's saying is she wants to have her cake and eat it too. She wants to continue to be a racist and just tell everybody else that, well, I just wish it didn't paint ESPN as racist. And I regret that. I regret that other people construe the hiring of a racist as a front woman for their company. It paints them as a racist company. Right. I really regret that.
So CNN did a expose on this.
Okay.
They wanted to expose this. give it as much light as they could.
Did they do a full frontal? I mean,
you may be quite surprised about that frontal.
Okay.
The woman it's her show on CNN. I don't even know what her name is. She's the blonde one, middle-aged, probably in her 40s, maybe even 50s. And she has a black...
By the way, if you're in your 50s, you're not middle-aged.
She's higher than middle-aged. She's higher. She's like almost probably 50, 45.
They call that... I don't know.
Okay. So she's got two panelists, two people on her show. One's a black guy that I have no idea what he does, but the other guy is a radio talk show shock jock.
Ah, okay.
And he's a white guy.
Okay.
And she goes to him first about this CNN stunt. Listen closely to what he has to say.
And that had absolutely nothing to do with sports. And they said, look, you can't have this opinion. It's too conservative. We're not going to allow it. I think that's a bad move. I'm a First Amendment absolutist. I believe in only two things completely, the First Amendment and boobs. And so once they made the decision that they were not going to allow a conservative, non-related commentary, they couldn't do it
Hold on. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly as a woman
kept
anchoring
talking.
the show. Did you say... What?
He kept talking as if...
Dude, he was doing a Howard Stern drop-in.
Well, he said it, and he kept talking as if he expected nobody to react to that.
That's SOP, standard operating procedure. That's how I roll.
It's like method acting.
That's how I roll.
But he had to know that by saying it in that way, that it's going to get a react. He didn't even wait for anybody to react. He just went for it. All right, so go ahead.
What did you just say? You believe in the First Amendment and BWBS?
She can't even say the...
That's BEWS.
She can't even say the word.
BEWBS. Boobs.
Boobs. Like, honestly, I thought he said booze as well. My wife looked at me. She said, did he just say booze? I said, okay, hold on. Hold on. He said two things that have never let him down in life. Booze will always let you down.
Okay, because some people might say the opposite.
Right. Because booze is not one to trust on never letting you down.
Okay, all right.
Boobs. Two things that have only never let me down in this entire country's history, the First Amendment and boobs. So those are the only two things I believe in absolutely in the country. And so I don't think Jemele Hill should be fired, but I do think, straight up, that once you make the decision that you are going to let Kurt Schilling go, that you have to also make the decision that
okay, her face is just twerking. she's anguishing, lamenting in utter pain and disbelief, and she's looking at the sky and around her. And yes, Kurt Schilling was fired for being a conservative.
Right. Oh yeah, big time.
Jemele? No, she's a racist, hateful individual. But they're going to keep her, and that's what he's talking about. So as the woman is just wrenching, it's her show, and she had this guy come on, this is what he's saying.
You're going to let Jemele Hill go. I think that's a bad decision. I think ESPN has made bad decisions that have led to 13 million subscribers bailing on the network.
13
million. They've made bad decisions that have led to ratings collapsing. Jemele Hill's...
she is still wrenching. When you see this video, she is in utter disbelief as he continues to talk. Like he just doesn't stop.
Television show is collapsing. Ratings were down 20% last week over last year. I think that's why she's angry. I think that's why she went after Donald Trump. She's begging for ESPN to fire her so she can work somewhere else.
Okay. Keith?
I am so triggered right now.
Listen, I'm astonished at almost everything I just heard. One of the things that, and Jemele's a personal friend, not just the colleague.
Dude starts cracking on him.
One of the things that Jemele's had to deal with her entire career, and many women who
okay, so Jemele has had to deal with this, Carrie, her entire career, and many women that he knows have had to deal with this, Carrie. You ready to hear what they've had to deal with?
Yeah, I want to hear what they had to deal with.
I'm friends with in this business and have been friends with in this business for a long time is sexism, blatant sexism, comments about her appearance, comments about her racially, comments about her inability or perceived inability to be.
He had to cover that. Did you hear that?
Her
Comments about her inability. I mean perceived.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. I didn't even catch that at first.
Her sex and her sexism.
And her inability to have any talent. I mean, her perceived inability to have any
It's a
talent.
perceived notion.
Able to comment on sports because of her gender. So for somebody to come on CNN and to say something like the only thing I believe in a discussion about something.
I'm still there too, and I just want to make sure I'm.
Her head is still wrenching. She's still, even when this guy's talking and coming to her aid, she still cannot believe. She's in utter disbelief.
Her face is like that twisty looking thing that you see on the Instagram or whatever.
Yep, exactly.
I'm hearing you correctly. BOOZE or BOOBS? Because as a woman, I'm
as in boobs. I believe completely in the First Amendment and in boobs. Those are the only two things I believe 100% in this country. And by the way, Jamel has absolutely nothing to do with her background at all. Immediately, did you notice that? He went straight to that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I did go straight to that.
Why would you even say that live on national television and with a female host?
I say it live on the radio all the time because it's true, and that's what I do. Because I like boobs and the First Amendment.
He tripled down. He tripled down or quadrupled down?
Yeah, that clip went on forever.
By the way, did you see one of his tweets a little later on?
No.
He said that they were so offended by his comments, they asked him to come back on Monday. CNN. They asked him to come back on Monday. And oh, by the way, he has been asked to come on to Fox News now. So in a way,
he did his job.
I'm actually surprised that he had the courage to tweet that out. I would have been like, all right, just act like they're mad at me. Don't say anything. Instead, he's like, you guys acting like they're mad at me? They already invited me back. Yeah, so the whole idea that CNN is so upset. No, the producers are like, oh my gosh.
Our ratings are going through the roof.
Exactly.
We can't get Trump to come on anymore, but we got this guy.
We got boobs.
Boobs.
I wonder if they're going to have a female. Oh, you want to talk about sexism? Do you think they're going to automatically have a female commentator now? A female anchor for that segment?
That was her. That woman was...
No. On Monday.
Anchor.
Yeah, on Monday. When he comes back on. They're not going to have him go on there with another man.
It gotta be a woman. You can't have two men talking about boobs.
No, they're going to come on there with a woman so she can react and get triggered. They want somebody that's trigger happy.
Jamel.
There you go.
Dude,
Bring
put
her
her
on.
Oh, my goodness.
Bring her on. Oh, my gosh. ESPN would never
Because she's got boobs.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
I saw the Obama picture.
She's a good-looking woman, too. I don't know what the other guy...
Why she's got to hate so much.
No, why does the other guy got to talk about how much she's had to struggle for being a black woman because of her appearance? She's a good-looking woman.
Right. Which opens doors.
What is he talking about? I mean, it's not like it looks like the elephant woman or whatever. I mean,
she did say elephant in the room.
Oh, okay. Well,
I don't know what that. I don't know what that entails or what that means.
Wow, that's so insensitive.
It is it not? God bless it.
So insensitive. I mean, you can't be talking about women like that. You just can't.
No, Rosie O'Donnell,
Oh, my God. Yeah, I mean, if she looked like Rosie O'Donnell and we're talking about she's had to worry about her looks and all that kind of stuff.
I'll tell you what, Rosie O'Donnell's probably had a harder life than this woman has.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah? Especially as a comedian.
I could take one look at her and tell.
Her mom had to tie a pork chop around her neck for the dog to play with her.
Oh, no, you didn't. Oh. Ouch. Oh, my God, so painful.
It's late to eat. The kids should be in bed by now.
By the way, there's no alcohol involved here. We just we get a little slap happy at the end.
My wife walked in. She saw my drink. She said, "Are you starting already?" I said, "I'm on show prep." And she grabbed my glass and drank. She said, oh, it's an energy drink. I'm sorry. I'm like, that's crazy.
Wow, she's looking out for you.
Yeah. No, folks, we don't need that to have fun here. Not at all.
No. In fact, did you ever tell them about the first time we tried to do a drunken show?
Oh, the very first show ever?
No.
Yeah.
Terrible.
No, folks, that is
so bad.
No good.
Well, and we didn't know at the time too. We were doing it, and we were like, "Oh my God, it's the best show ever!" And then,
and it was our very first show.
No, it wasn't. It was like the first month.
So early on.
Yeah, it was really early on. It was like the first month.
Okay.
So, but we went back and listened to it while we were sober, or at least Brian did. And Brian said, I deleted it so fast.
We pulled that down. It is in the archives. Maybe one day.
One day we'll pull it out as a blooper reel.
When we're dead.
Yeah.
You can't do that while we're still alive.
Yeah, we got to protect our image even in our death. So I think we should delete it for good.
For good.
We should sell it to Martin Shkreli like Wu-Tang did their album.
Oh, yeah.
One copy, Martin Shkreli. We'll sell it to him for $2 million, and he's not allowed to put it on eBay at all. I'm just saying.
So CNN, Hurricane Jose fades away, but wait, there are 3 raging storms in the Atlantic, and one of them, their path is aiming straight for Irma's path.
Okay, so back to Florida.
CNN can't let this hurricane stuff go. It's some of the best news they've ever had.
People actually watch them.
Well, people are like standing there. Oh, wow, look at that idiot CNN out there in a hurricane.
Right. Did you hear about, we talked about the Trump meme with the golf?
Yeah, Hillary.
Apparently an entire article is on the front page of Yahoo.
Sweet.
Do we have time to look at it?
You got like a minute.
All right. Trump shares video of him knocking out Hillary Clinton with a golf ball. President Trump fired off a barrage of tweets and retweets on Sunday, including a crudely edited video. By the way, it wasn't crudely edited. It was awesome.
It was incredibly edited.
Right.
Not crudely, incredibly.
Right. Of him hitting a golf ball into Hillary Clinton's back, a message mocking North Korea leader Kim Jong-un as Rocketman, and retweets of his initial response to Friday's early morning explosion on a London subway. The GIF video, posted by a user with the Twitter handle at, I can't even say that on the air.
FUCT.
UPMIND, shows...
He's a friend of ours on Twitter.
Shows Trump's drive knocking Clinton into the ground as she boards a plane. Quote, Donald Trump's amazing golf swing, crooked Hillary reads the message accompanying the video. In July, Trump drew controversy when the video... when he shared a video on Twitter of himself slamming WWE President Vince McMahon on the ground, punching him with the CNN logo superimposed on McMahon's head. So yeah, this is just pretty much an article about his tweets. It's a list of tweets.
It is hysterical.
So yeah,
how this is
top front page news on Yahoo,
and this invites people to knock women down.
They're always going to do that, and it's just stupid.
The only football players do that.
Dude, I think they heard me say Elephant Man.
Dude, the ad is for Elephant Man.
I can't. That's weird. I'm telling you, Google's listening to us. This is Yahoo, though.
Yahoo's trying to get some technology going.
They're trying to make it happen. Well.
All right. Oh, folks, this is the fast 3 hours you'll spend anywhere in your entire life here with Smith Radio. Me, Brian Smith, Kerry Smith, making this happen, doing our part to try and help Trump make America great again. Folks, if you want to help Trump, if you want to do anything, you want to get involved and you want to be a part of this to help make America great again, jump over to patreon.com/Smith Radio. $1 will get you into the Smith Radio private message group where you can talk to Kerry and myself, and you can be a part of our entire fam. As well as over on Patreon, you can check out the new Covfefe coffee cups, personally designed by Kerry and myself, and they are for Patreons, and you can find out more about how to get a hold of one of them. And there's only a few of them left. There's only a few more left, and then that'll be all. We will be starting a new campaign soon. We will keep you posted on that. And we are to bring one Patreon. Next week, we're going to be working on bringing one Patreon on the show to talk to us about one thing that they want to discuss, whatever it is, and we'll do a small little segment for them and have them discuss that with us.
How do we choose it? How do we choose the person?
Well, I figured we'd probably ask around because
some people don't want to do it.
There are some Patreons that we have that I'm sure they won't want to.
Right.
We do have one that is a I don't remember her handle, so I can't say, but she's does her Periscope. She does a lot of scopes about being healthy and cleanse and Christ and Bible verses. She might do it.
Oh, yeah, because she's already in front of a camera.
Right.
But there's some people that are fans of ours that are never in front of a camera.
But we'll do it just audio, no video, but we will get one of our Patreon fans. So if you want to be on this show, go to patreon.com and you could be chosen as one of those patrons that come on the show. Talk about what you want to say.
Thank you very much, everybody. I'm so appreciative of everything that you guys do for us. We will continue to work as hard as we can to get the truth out to you. We will see you guys next week.
Man, that was a rough start.
With unfathomable power.
What kind of power?
Unfathomable. It's without fathom.